Adishima mwachi Akwa aha United Television na ne memene da and 11th of April 2026. Jumade ni din critical issue anopa no wotwe ekopim se bebudu ba komedi ade Agya Kwabena yatina sia no pai ye bedi komato ato adwene ahwe kwampa ebetuma fa so na ensama do wo man mu esusu se yedi hu komo no na yedi hu komo na adwenche ne susuye no ye kan nyina de frase de ye nkwan a ingredients wo mu no ye de fra na fe e kabo mu na oman no afa ne ntoma pa efrenti anopa ka me ho da ye ntena nkopim se du ba ko ebebo na na no pa yaseda ane ye de ma special ice nsuo se so mu kore ye mu abrebi a special ice so korogin a ye nyina nim se bebi etu free ye no problem bi ni ho ha ebrebi ponase ti ye ho no nso no eye correct papa na processes e famu anse na bedu to awe mu no you have no idea ye so ne so san emprem bebre na no achi so ye de niam ese de frase ba obenya hoden no ni nyina bi ewo mu hye no so se de wotu amu no ene de was ahye mu ni nyina ye pe be special ice ni pure water no ene de wotu amu no ni nyina ye pe esanse se tie nyina nye paint no obi betumi anom beto to ade no bi so to sachet de no me say se bitumi bo we wie na se behwe na ye na to sachet de no na matia no mahwe agum aha ni nyina ya de koro no a na special drink no so the flavors ni bebre ye nyina nim se de sitie enti na kwa weekend yi eye wo ho abedinto wo ho party wo ho ene se na fe enuanom namfo so na be sitting kakra enti na ho behia so onya special cooler na wo na de awo nema. You get what I mean? Aha. Enti bre bi no mo no ro no ne bi no de nema e wo no na fe ye kosa. Asere no bi beko e de ma this way chocolate drink and the coffee drink and so this way me can hold tea and medika essence this way my no near him say between my friend try say nobody is harming yeah harm you remember no what person of be ka say wa na pe Robert say na for ka say ma kan I feel na was starting this one no this way the fruit no etiko from kakra so no bi na ebeboa na aduane gina ho cha aya na ha adwene pa say udidi a do hwiri mienu santam ese di nyina atumi ekokora na hutumi hen hawo na fufuo se di a etumi gina ho che tintimi ansana ebe nane anane ammoa nipadua no ni fufuo na mekanfo de ama wo ya ye body ya na body ya na eduaye an ena bayere no so ya na eduaye enti se ye de ye fufuo na eposim ankasa udi ya abritia bi na anane anasa digest na hotumi atontentem na nuenuro na body ni hia no nsatumi aka abekwa no so de kokwase die ya na de ye wo hoden se anu so de anyu ekwe na de aseda ma omna no pai se wo musu yasen na ye de dwumadie ye ebremu na ene me person me ka sam kitu ha bi we don't value our own no we don't value our own. We don't encourage. Yen shen kuran sa oman. Yen shen yen wo hu kuran. So obi ye bibi ase shen kuran yen shen kuran. Obi ye bibi ase pagya no a yen pagya ne abre na se. Obi a potential se bi anka ase etumi sa akwai ade o ye betu nanka ye gina na chi ne pagya no no. O da bi yenye okwan be fa so be go nipa no hu fiagu na nimu ase no eno ne ye be bre na se pull him down home ase ye ma wonim be na watchi ni 10 days ni do 10 days I think by 10 days ni ana ye se ye ko moon okrofo bi America fo ne ma ye yi ye de ko space moon aha ye ko be 50 years ni sa Apollo hwan wo kan ya tete ye se Apollo hwan aha omuko wiem okosoro kosram so eno eche omuko bio enti enne omo ekọ be 10 days no ene no mo lande ye e wa America man mu na oba ba ko ka ho oba no eye Canada ni na na bi sam okodu wiem ho no Ghana flag eno yiye prince we dem yes man kan na ya nya we nanka ye yi picture nanka nkofo hwe ye try say msa betumi aka picture nanka yi na ya hwefo nyina tumi ahwe bi na ababaawa no kɔ space hɔ no wankwan kɔfa Canada flag ansan ho Ghana flag ɛna ewura no wɔde ɛkɔkɔ sɛn hɔ na ne nyinaa ne sɛ ɔbɛkɔ school ɛwɔ University of Ghana Legon Heya ɛna ewura no ɔbɛkɔ school yan Legon yo ɛna ewura no bɛkɔ school prince we deɛ aka akyi nso deɛ hwɛ sɛ obetumi de ato hɔ a ɛna ewura bɛyi ɛbɛkɔ school Legon ha na ɔnum asɛm ewura ba na aka ɔse Oba school of Ghana ha University of Ghana Legon no sa school no ba Ghana ha no eno na sesa ne hyebre oya Canada ni obroni kokko broni eno nya ho kwan ba school ewo Legon o se Legon na oba Ghana na oba ye ba school Legon no eno na esesa na brabo esesa ne bibia sɛ wɔbɛkyɛ Ghana ha bia bɛ 4 years and then wɔde ɛmfa bɛ 5 years 6 years ɛna wɔbɛdi Ghana ha ɛna wɔbɛkɔ school Ghana ha ne ban Canada flag ɔnam wiem wɔ space hɔ no ɔnam space hɔ no ewiem hɔ no wɔamfa Canada flag amɔ hɔ Ghana flag ɛna awuraba ne yiyɛ ɔnyɛ Ghana ni obedi ɛfa so obedi 10 years ɔna abra bɔ mu wɔ Ghana ha mpo a deɛ aka nyina Canada. And so Ghana flag no ye because or say Ghana ha no buy ye best school Ghana ha no and no necessary ne shebre and no necessary ne mentality and no necessary na brabo. You see how Ghana Nyankopon hyira yen. One say na ho eton Ghana. One say na broni eton Ghana. E san ntisi e odi Ghana ha ntino. Asesa ne bibia ma oba a wokɔ wiem 15 years ni onie o wasram so na Ghana flag na mame na use see hwɛ o de hwɛ ani gisɛm ewom ɛnyɛ fɛ watɔn Ghana ma wiase nyinaa waton Ghana ama wiase nyina ma sese betu esi ebo aka se Ghana yegina na so wiase nyina hu se o man piti Ghana she's not a Ghanaian or a Canadian but look at how show appreciation say obe school or University of Ghana Legon Heya no eno na sesa ne mentality na bra bo se do se dwene ma nyina no eno na oda na di no eno na ye de se yenkuran o de ti anim they never say. When him say cable here, woman the internet your friend saying Prince one out to brofo now use no Mekai. One second in the yes. The dear internet ni ye hwan niam nyina no Ghana ni ono no ye Ghana ni ena ye a wiase nyina nya so mfaso Ghana ni ena ye enti si ye kase ye behye ye hu nkuran apagya ye ho aboa ye ho a Ghana ke do akire o ke ye kɔ de na so pese min kumi nyanti ya mama yo sama say ye ne mama ade a ke betua ne ani yie no ye nye obi esese tu bi pagya no oye bibia betua aboa na obi anya so mfaso a se ye de ahode tan dachi so manfo ene oman no ye nye ne sa onipa no ekɔ no ne ye nyina ye kuranum ne ye twe ne san mi hwa so kɔ na ekoye yi a ebebe fie anka na bere mango na bere esensen soro ena obi eforo ya ye wase do betumi aforo no ena oforo ya ye wase yenim duafo ntodo foko a no akwate yenya bi adi oforo no ne yatwe ne san okɔ nanim no ne yatwe ne san esu san ka gya na ma no kɔ soro a anka mango na abere no obekọ kotete ote obeja atofo na menu menu nyina tuma fa bi adi so yenye aye yesu ene ye ban ene twetwa ye hu nanti twetwa ye hu nanti se ye hu din esopa ye hu gu ye hu fi gu ye hu animu ase asema no kra ne ye ka ne ye di trogu ye hu sa nje tumi ko ye ni Yakopon hyira ma na aboro so anka sesa ga na ye di hia anka sesa ga na Yesu da nanso ye ne ye nti no ehyira ne ya dane no me ehyira ne Yakopon de ahyira ye no ya dane no me enti ewre na de na ye no efe omuko wiem no wo ma ba wo ma be lande say santan o America wakoti ga na nim o man ga na boa no ama ne bibia asesa me so to go space University of Ghana ha or buy no na boa no ma to do space ho nti ye ma ene enuanom a omo so more innovative ideas omo ye niam no ede ne ye de aboa omo se de be betu pagya omo emrantie bi technology bi a ye de to aba so this across about 16 years ago say 20 years ago who here yen what is technology no China for better technology am nanti bi ye de ko China ai omo de ko nti omo kwa no mo de akokọ ye niam na mo de aba beton ama yen enti yasemu bebre mummi hu so man ye dia eye ya eye ma yen esenso a ebe sa ma yen nyina me da mase no pay anope betwa hu ne abatiawa na se ba anope ni kase bi ebe fia me ya bedi nkomo kakra na yen komo ebedie no efa tax ho eto ho na pani America na sami wọ́n de hyehyɛ bi aba sanhyɛ no offer no publican na sa publican no Ghana Revenue Authority for na de aba ɛho sama sɔre nti ene yenye opemu na nkasa yenye okese na nkasa yewura Anthony Sapon osande kwesi me papa no Anthony Kwesi Sapon o na Commissioner General edema Ghana Revenue Authority ene wabeka mensa ofie ha nti yetwa ho tiawa na yem komra ye ba questions e wo nyina gutafo questions first forward for there nyina no yewura Anthony Kwesi Sapon ebe chirichiri mu muntwen ye ba sisi ya awi adesemama ye twa ye ho a ya ba sa medi kan ye no ene pani kase pa na yenya no ofie ha opani ameka na semi ni din ene owura Anthony Kwesi Sapon owura Anthony Kwesi Sapon ene ye commissioner general edema Ghana Revenue Authority o man adwumaku a eto a yagigye nyina no taxes yagigye nyina no adwumaku a agye no wo no na woda no na ne ntie ne ya ato nsafre no abafia me bedi nkomo ani say nansen gutafo freight forwarders for ane adwadifo bi no mu ne ankorankora bi e kansama hodo bi kire say Ghana Revenue Authority for e de hihye bi abaye fra no publican na sa publican no AI na ye de behwe ama taxes ahodo a yegye e wo port ahodo ni nyina no AI no na be kire the value a so odwadini no utia na ehun sam na be de japa echichire mu no ene de wen enti pani ono na oda adwuma na no ankasa no waba last Tuesday ye ne guta freight forwarders for ACI ema ye di nkomo enti wam consensus awdo bi omurezi ne sama awdo bi okan ye no ene yewura Anthony Kwesi Sapon ofie he de menim so betumi di nchichire mu esefata e de abre ye na afia tumi hu ni nyina Agya Kwabena
You so.
What dear, we are some first day at school. Say, and any day they can be here now.
I talk to me.
Talk to me. This is what class 2.
That's it. We share with you for you know. We share good for paying for the freight forwarders. Yeah, you my boom. Team I do here. Say me the we share almost so I no pay.
Sir. And yeah, when yeah, GR it is a name question.
Oh, nyame aduma adwuma mampan di ashensa no ye boy homoden se ye be ma oman nyina nso nya ho mfaso enti ye boy homoden pa
homoden pa na ayi na ye mimisa publican there
yo mini ameda wase na sana meyi enu ano no me ka asam kakra bi mfa etoje ho
okay
na ye GR no ye na emrakwan mu na na mampanyin ensa no se ye ngeje eto na eto na ye je na mampanyin ne amamuo no omohwe so di esisi oman no se ye be ye kwan ye be ye hospital ye be ye schools ye fa nkofo wadwuma mu nyina no ye to a egeje no ti se to ni ho a na oman no bra ni nyina na etofo enti ye de ehu eto je ne se ye moja enam oman mu se moja ni nipadua ni mu a ebe nya adwuma enti se anje to nso ma aban na mfa nya adwuma pa na chese enyeye na etoje ne ye omumienu ye ode obi de ne amafiri amanone ba ye je ewo kwan a odam so se port airport anase border ene ye wode agigi okrom nso wa wo oye adwuma okrom ha enti sa publican na ye de aba na friend AI no eno na ebe boa mi agege to no efa amano ne ne ma ye de ba na kwan ye fa so gi eto wo ekrom ha no ne ma mi ense bi a wanhwe ni ya na de ensem bebre beba de dikan se uhu bibia ne ma ni free ba free se me kofa ne ma no wo China ana se me kofa o Egypt a boa ye beje me se me de go ship ma ye friend freight no esesa na eto a ye no so freight ne ka ho enti se wo je to na obi de free China ne kwan wa na se o free Egypt ne kwan etua na wo be ka kire aban se wo de free Egypt na ekohwem ne free China ahwa na wasisi aban de ho no ese ehumu ye de toso mienu wo wiase nyina no nneema bia free oman foforo so ko ba bi no wo professor bi friend HS code ama krobia de bedu so bia ye hu se wo ka se insuo ni a we insuo no kra na emunie aha enti HS code ne so emma ye hu ade potia wo de ba na de toso miensan so ye ebo a ukoto no ebo a ukoto no so hia pa eno na ebe hu na ena bibi wo so ade toso nan ye ebimu ye nnuro ni aduana ebi a obi asɛ na obi de ba abɛsɛ ɔmanfo na saa nneɛma we nyina no pen a etwam no sɛ obi kɔtɔ na de na ɔsɔ de ba aya na edin sɛ obi hu sɛ trodo ni de ɔtɔ ni nti mre etwam no GR ye bibi sɛ benchmark oba na ehu a na de ya adwena toto ho sɛ we de ya hwɛ a ebe gyina ha nti wo de ne toma ne afa antomu so a na wokɔ nti ayɛ yɛ saa nneɛma no hɔ nanso ne titrade ba ko a na ɛha ne sɛ ne nyinaa kɔgyina yɛ officers baako so ɛba dwadine ne boafoɔ ne me officers baako ana mmienu ɔmo na ɛbɛhwehwɛ saa nneɛma nim na ɛhawa na de ba no sɛ wɔ brɔfka sɛ bɛfka sɛ human discretion no na ayɛ bebree nti ɛto sɛ bi yɛgye ma aban no nye ne nyinaa na ehu sɛ ɛba
okay
ɛna ɛto gye mu no sɛ obibi te sɛ pɛpɛɛyɛ ɛne parity sɛ obiara no bɛgye no pɛpɛɛpɛ nti sɛ kɔba sɛ wo de nneɛma aba na wo de wonya obi a otumi no kasa kokoa mu na wago de mama na me ma enya obi na ma enya obi sa na me de akɔsoro yɛ nyina nneɛma korɔ na yɛ bɛtɔn abo sɛ me bɔ kɔsoro wo de ɛfo de tosumi no so aban asa aboka nti anu mu no na ɛsɛ hwɛ ma bibia no yɛyi no so efiri hɔ nti anu na yɛyɛ yɛ adwen sɛ sa nneɛma wee nyinaa wɔ hɔ de a sisi a de wɔ wiase no abɛɛfo aba abɛɛfo a ɔmo yɛahyehyɛ ɔmo te sɛ ɛyɛ sɛ nipa pɛpɛɛpɛ na mmom ɔmo nyɛ nipa nti yɛmfa abɛɛfo bi na ɔmo mɛboa yɛ officers no ɔmo mɛyi officers no mfiri hɔ ɔmo bɛboa ɔmo na sɛ wode nneɛma ne ba na ato sɛ okay mekɔtɔɔ no wɔ China ne buoni freight a metua no abɛɛfo no bɛhwehwɛ mu a na ɔde information ama officers sɛ mehwehwɛ mu no wei de nipa koro odi no korɛ nti ne gyina deɛ ne tum mehwehwɛ mu kakra na so bi a aha deɛ hwɛ ha yie na yɛm sɛ waka biribi a ɛntɔ asom papa na officer na afei deɛ wahwɛ sɛ ade a ɛtɔ asom a na wama akɔ ɛntɔ asom so a ne aka sɛ dɛ yɛwɔ biribi wɔ hɔ a yɛfrɛ no appeal ɔmo yɛ nipa bɛyɛ ɛnan na ɔmo ahyia na ɔmo ahwɛm ansa na ɔmo akɔ nti sɛ abɛɛfo no titira ɛbɛyɛ ne sɛ ɛbɛboa me ahwehwɛ saa baabi a wode nneɛma afiri ba ɛboa a wohyɛ wo tɔɔ no nneɛma no a wode ba no yɛgye tum wɔ Ghana ha anaasɛ yɛngye ntum saa nneɛma information no na ɛbɛboa me ahwehwɛ na afei deɛ ɛde ama yɛ officers no nti sɛ yɛka sɛ yɛde abɛɛfo no aba adeɛ titiri pa a ɛbɛyɛ ama yɛ no
woka biribi about sɛ ɛbɛhwehwɛ biribi mu ɛhwehwɛ mu wɔ kwan bɛn so sɛ ne boɔ no biribi efire dɛsɛ biribi efire efi China ebi efi China ba no China hɔ no ese ne ɛtɔn no ɛyɛ comparison bi na ɔbɛyɛ sɛ China for tɔn ne sɛn Egypt for tɔn ne sɛn wɔnum tɔn ne sɛn wɔgyina so ɛde ama sɛ asɛmpa na sɛ nokorɛ na odwadini no edi anaasɛ ɛhɔ no so betua hyehyɛ mu kakra
yo enti nhwehwɛmu no egu ahodoɔ bebree dedi kan ɛbɛhwehwɛ mu dwadini ba a ɔbɛka sɛ mekɔfa nneɛma no firi China enti abɛɛfo no bɛkom aka sɛ nneɛma yi a wode bɛɛ bibia so kɔfa no ampa sɛ ɛhɔ ne free a and abɛɛfo no bɛgye ato wangye antomu a no aka kyerɛ officer sɛ mehwɛɛ no ankɔ yɛ ntimu hwehwɛ mu wankasa wo nipa no hwehwɛ mu kakra na owie a wasan hwɛ boɔ no a wode to hɔ no na wakɔ wiase ama na nyina ne bibia kɔfa nneɛma no so aka sɛ saa deɛ wei a wotɔi ni ɛboɔ sɛn na obi atɔ ne da nti ɔbɛma yɛ ketewa a obi atɔ pɛn ebi a wakɔtɔ bibi ɛmfa nse pɛn a yɛde twerɛ yi da abɛɛfo no hwehwɛ mu a no aka sɛ China no bibia ɔso ɔkɔfa no ebi a pɛn wei yɛtɔ no 5 cedis wɔ hɔ Ghana cedis na mmom akyere so a kɛse a mehu a yɛ 10 Ghana cedis nti abɛɛfo no nka nkyɛw sɛ ɛyɛ baako anaa mmienu ɔbɛma wo ketewa ɛwɔ mu a wohu ne kɛse ɛwɔ mu a wohu na ma officer ne de akɔmpɛɛ sɛ okay obi baa no ɔka sɛ betɔ me deɛ ne 6 cedis a na kyɛ sɛ ɛwɔ mu ayɛ sɛ pen obi atɔ no 5 cedis da nti wonya no 6 a ɛnhyɛ da anyɛ yi na mmom wo baa no aka sɛ wotɔ deɛ 2 cedis a na abɛɛfo no aka sɛ mehwehwɛ mu na manhu obi a watɔ 2 cedis da nti 2 cedis no so ɛbɛma sɛ nyɛ no kora ban bɛbɔ ka nti no aka kyerɛ officer sɛ mo hwehwɛ mu bio ebi amoma ne fa ne nkrataa mmra because adwadie na bi a obi kɔɛ no wakɔdi ho nkɔmmɔ me ate so ama no ɛne de abɛɛfo no onim nti abɛɛfo no bɛka sɛ ɛne mo gyegye saa nneɛma na mo nhwɛ mu ɛhɔ no nya abɛɛfo no asɛm na deɛ ɛtɔ so mmiɛnsa so ɛfa aduane ne nnuro ne nneɛma no so abɛɛfo no tumi hu sɛ nnuro a yɛyɛ wɔ Ghana ha yɛgye to mu no ɛne nyinaa ne yɛde ahyɛ mu nti wodi nnuro ne aduane bi ba ɛbɛha abɛɛfo no so bɛka sɛ a monhwɛ mu na ɛfiri sɛ saa deɛ wei yɛngye ntom wɔ Ghana ha anaa nso sɛ nneɛma te sɛ contraband etuo ne security nneɛma nyinaa abɛɛfo no tumi ka kyɛn sɛ monhwɛ ne yie na be ekure free so ba na company amakofa ho no omo ho oka kakra nti we nyina no abefo no boy kokko ho na yenso afa na de aye adwuma eto aso
Homo ka say saa hihye amodi bɛyi no ebema additional cost sande ka foforo ka adwedifo mo ekra niam no ye no kore say the additional cost ka wo mudwuma mu di
me nua me ti saa asɛm no ye me na kakra na metwe amanfo adwen agina so say wo ma etim ye de mra na ye adwuma ansa na aban adwuma ko bia bagi sika free obi ho no che de akọ yan parliament no ma atremra say saa mra we mu nam so na mo ngi sika no na ye kase de abefo be ye aban fa bibia nko ye parliament say ye nge taxes ana levies ana bibisa ase de ba ena ye sinipen so say we de aban na fi say dwadifo amene omudi ho kita ho no ebi mo en kanu kra ni nyina ankyere aban nti aban na pese onam diare so ya yesiesie ho na baabi a ye luso ne ensaka nti ya adwen se ye mfa ohaw bia nkoto dwadi ne bi so because enye obia na onka no kra obi de ne de abantum mfa eka nkoto no so nti we no ka ye aban na ebo ewo diare se ya ye de bibi ba na abeboa ye dwuma ye nti mi sisu bi o se ye nje tax bia wo saade wo hu ewo dwani ni ho ye nje charge bia wo edwade ni ho ye nje fees bia wo edwade na agent ho enim sa na emom de ye hu ni se ye hyase ye oha nchichemu diosun num de abefo ne ka se omom de ba na ye emu be adonu num ene ye hu se nsensem wo ho eno no na ye hu se obi o ho a ne enema o ka se auto na de na abefo ne na anya dwuma de a na esi ehwehwem na ebi o wa hwehwem na ese de ebo oto no na ekosoro na no kosoro de eto dada na ye jewo sibi a oto no na no a na ye je ndi bia first no ba na ye kana na bi na se unya no fo a sisi ade abefo no be mo atua no pepe so nti eno na ebem na enye to foforo e na enye ka foforo so
ayi womo a ekra niam aba no asaba ko no mo kan say niam bi ho for example typical ayi omuma ye say household items na sa household items no say niam me de ba fie ba ye me fie niam no eno no value no ade abede be sisi me fie so de denti na say value no cost so say boom ene na se fo ho no wo mo dwene ho mo nte ase ho no eno no den de wom
yo empe bebre na na ye gina de niam no free amano no ba na ka say householder ne adwan ye say ni sa banje hoto na te said me no ti he se wo wanya kwan na wankwa abrochi ankoto fridge na se wo to no okromu ha fridge na ye de aba no ni pa ode ba no watua eto no ewo port ho ye san de VAT atoso enti wo watua nanso obi di fra amano no ba obeka so no de ono nya ho kwan ni sika kofa amano enti wo ntua esa ade amka se parity ana pepe ye no emam enti wa kofa onema so na eba na se ye nema eye foforo na ebi a oti abrochi na do nema ba wa yusu na wo ba fie no de mra no makwan wo yusu ho dada wato ho na wo ba fie enti wo de ba eno no hwe ni ho na mo makoto ne mo chian te se de obi akoto ne mo chian wa ha na wo de ba te se de nipa kra wo ha oto ye to da so no sa na wo so dru porta ese to da so na wo ni nipa no ayepe na de wo mso se sa abefo no kra ya ese ehu se ansa na abefo no beba no ye wo kwan a na ajeje we nyina aha enti se echine kakra ba ho mpo a ekwan dada no yetimi fa ho ye na ye de ma abefo no isua sibia na ye no nti ade ba kwa ye ni je sa abefo no o ye te se nipa ba on to nipa nti ba bi ho no kochew kakra na nipa ne kire ne se oh we de sa nipa sa na me ye na bo se wasua ade bi a obeye ni bi obia no obeye no pepepe te se de nipa ne ye no nti niema makoma bi a abefo no nim ne ya ye kire no na emre to mre no bo sa abefo no aye nte se de ye
nipa ye no pepepe AI ye kan waso na ye hwe se koba se bi a odwadini bi de niema no ba na niema no ebi a esisi gina de fa ho a eye nipa na ye final decision maker now say AI no and the basic and I say this is how it's supposed to be.
Yo AI ne de na sase ne ade ni nyina no on your decision.
Okay.
Or yeah, as a research analyst, information na abo anu abo nipa no. Na de yen say sa na ma maka nyina say dwade ni ba no nam ne boafo so e de go ye Ghana higher system ye friend ICOM ne so a. Na ka first no ye nipa o me hu adwuma no e be don hwimienu because say okwohwehwe mu say baby also free China ba no company a o di free ho ne ade no e no kre enipa na e ya ejemre no wasa ahwehwe mu hwenkrata bebre ni nema bebre say o price a o de ba no eye classification wo wi asim say na e kase sa nema we sa na tie no eye intina nipa na ya take e be don hwimienu inti sa adwuma hwehwe mu we no na AI na be bo nipa no mo aye inti AI na de adwade nya de gum a don hwinum na AI na hwehwe mako wiasa amana nyina
simanum ana
simanum
so 5 minutes
simanum no hwehwe mako wiasa fana nyina bebia so di free ba ebo a yeto no yeto bi san obi a wato bi da na ade nyina no de abre customer officer no say wo na wo ye wadwuma adwuma nka wo de don hwemienu behwe no simanum aya ama inti information nyina ni inti hwehwem
nti say AI ko gada information about the
goods no no the amani pan into officer no na oye in charge into first say AI na say the assisted or complementary decision making tool boa nipa na oye hu adwuma into nye AI na ye final oye hu adwuma na nye AI no so na take decision custom officer and take sa decision
ye hwe answer na AI be ba no yenim say ajerifo no binum omudi no kre pa ebinum so ye wahu omo yanchada nka no krenti no omo under declare niema wo de eba nti before the AI any AI buy no difference be na aba
yo enti ye chance me fancy AI no ye chance no e kwan ye chance no ye mo be hwe baby ye friend no proof of concept ode dwadifo no kakra bi na be wuram ne ahwe se de atoto ho ne hu se the mo ka se obey se nipa ahwehwe mu na be ya
just am we in pilot in this
anu podi we dey before pilot we dey kakra bi nti ye wie na san call pilot na pilot difference ne proof of concept say pilot no utrim ye de nipa ne bebre shem nti ye anu so wie ya ye hu say ade de yam so hwehwe mu a ono ko oye ne ntam information so de ma no yam say eye nti na yɛn fa nkɔ parliament na parliament hwehwem ti ohwɛ bosumi duba kuni mu a de kɔ parliament kɔ churchill mu na badwakuo ne nyina afa ne afa nyina agi tum sɛ we de bɛboa because nipa kuo bi esisi aban na AI ne bɛboa de amonkɔ na amonkɔ yɛ nti yewie no na bosumi ɛtɔ baako afie mu no yɛ ni dwadifo ne ɔmoboafo nyina ahyia sɛ ade na yɛ ho adwuma sei na ɛbɛyɛ nti monte asɛma yɛ na ɛwɔ ọma adwuma ko bia nso ye no mo so ye adwuma bebre FDA standard board wo mo so ye checho mo because aduane ba na AI ne kasa aduane we mo hwe ne ya FDA ne de be ma mo na mo ahwe enye customs ye de agiska na mo aduane ye kronja na ye kronja FDA na be hwe nti wo mo so ye ne mo ye nhyiamu a ye checho mo ene efiri ho no so ye frɛ mo adwuma ko ibinum se mo mra na mo meti ase nti de toso nan a ye ne se bosome toso mienu no yema obi a odi nema babia na de fa AI ni mu na ambadwadifo na amane na pese pilot de wo ye sample ba February the end 100% de obi a fa mu ba yankase ye je obi a na ehwe ye de toto ho de AI no ye nipa na ye na ye sa no ye hu se America sika $3 million de biara eno na ban ebelusu se man niama no kɔ saa te sɛ de ɛyɛ ne dada na
AI na ntumi apam dada na yɛdi apam dada na
ma aban sika wolu so $3 million USD daily so the bombo smia be 1 billion Ghana cedis a month nti afimu no be about 12 billion ɛna aban ya hwe ya ɛbɛhwe nti no ma yenya awehwem ne ngina so sɛ ne ɛsɛ ade yɛhwɛ ne ma esisi ne nan so nti bosoma miensa ne data so du baako ene nya tumi free ye minister ho Dr. Kase ato forces se yam sɛ adwuma ya yɛ no ne hwehwɛmu ne ade nyinaa kyɛ sɛ nneɛma ne bi aban bɔka nti yɛn hyɛ aseɛ nti saa brɛ no ne yɛhyɛ aseɛ sɛ bibia obiara de ba no yɛ de AI na eboa yɛn me ahwehwɛ mu ansa na yɛagye ho ɛtoɔ.
I see. What can be say we no contemporary term?
Yes.
Ɔhwɛ no besi menum no ahwɛ wi. But dwadifo bi nso kyerɛ sɛ AI no delay papa ma o clear ugusa e delay pa ansa na otumi aclear. Ɛno so ɛ.
Yo. Ɛno deɛ ne nokura no ɛnyɛ pɛpɛ te sɛ deɛ ɔmo ka na free AI no. Na deɛ na ɛwɔ hɔ dada ne sɛ first no na dwadifo no ɔmo ba ɔmo de nneɛma no hyehyɛ ICOMS no mu a yɛ officers ne bi hu sɛ ɔmo mfonso wɔ mu anaaso sɛ nipa no wahyɛ da paa na ɔyɛ na kyɛ sɛ onya ho kwan bi anya ho mfasoɔ nti na yɛ officers na hu a na ɔmo asesa mo ɔmo na kɔ nti AI ne ba no yɛ ka kyerɛ ɔmo sɛ o sɛ muhu sɛ mfomso bi aba na ase ɛnyɛ wei a momfa ma dwanedi ne ne boafoɔ no ɔmo na ɛyɛ ɔmo information na ɔmo anhwɛm na ɔmo nsesa no na kyɛ sɛ nkɔba sɛ yɛn ahyɛ yɛn ho na yɛyɛ.
Yes, get customer officer and the best.
Nti wo dwedi na wa yɛ na ka kyerɛ sɛ ade a wo de ba yɛm sɛ correct one ni we ni nti wo gitum a na wa wasesa nti ɛhɔ ne ekohu sɛ ɛha adwen kakra because nti tia yɛ de ama ɔmo ne yɛ ma ɔmo nti afei de yɛ sɛ ɔmo anyɛ nti ehu sɛ ɛha ɔmo nti saa mbra ne yɛ yɛ firi hɔ yɛasan ma yɛ officers ne kwan sɛ mo hu mfonso bi a mo hyehyɛ ma ɔmo na mo hyehyɛ wi a ne yɛ de akyerɛ ɔmo sɛ mfomso aye hu yɛ ni sɛ wo yɛ ni sɛ kɛ sɛ wo yɛ sɛ wo gitum de a na yɛ de kɔ yɛ saa no nneɛma na aka kyerɛ ne nyinaa nneɛm sɛ na wotwe atwam yɛyi ne nyinaa afiri hɔ nti saa deɛ no ɛni hɔ bio ɛno ne kɔfa a broni kasa bɛka sɛ bottlenecks kakra baayɛ nti ɛno no yɛyi afiri hɔ
yɛra kɔsi sapɔn yɛhwɛ me na matumi kwan ɛna makoto ahu medu adeɛ no bodo donko me fofofo ɛna mato yɛmfa ne sɛ bi yɛ ɛmo anaa bibi anwa bi mato na mede aba me kunya no cheap pa na gya metɔyɛ mato no cheap na mede aba me na mekɔtɔ ma adeɛ ɛna me sɛ metɔ no sei ɛna mede aba saa nso na metua ho ka ɛbɛdu a AI no ɛse ɛnyɛ saa no AI no kɔfa na ayi ne firi nkɔso menya no donko bi
eti me da asepa so abusa saa asɛm we enti te sɛ dem di kankan ɛtoɔ wɔ amano ne nema a yɛde ba na adeɛ ba ko ɛhwɛm sɛ price anaasɛ ɛbo a wotɔ no ɛho hia ɛno no yɛn nyinaa nya no kure wɔ mu a dwadini no unsisi aban ɛna aban so ɛnsisiw na mmom ɛyɛ nipa ho adwuma nti ya ni to so obi wɔ hɔ a ɔbɛyɛ na adwo sɛ no na wo gyina so deɛ ɛneɛ mɛma na akɔfɔm ɛkɔfɔm a ɛna memenya meto na bɛba fam aha na ban so ɛbɔka enti adwumam no nyinaa yɛn so yɛbie yɛni na yɛhwɛ sɛ sɛ wo na so akonya wa deɛ watɔn fofofo deɛ nanso nokura ɛwɔ mu no ɛte sɛ aha enti deɛ yɛyɛ ne sɛ woba AI no bɛkɔ bebia saa deɛ na so tɔn fofofo no na wahwɛ hɔ ɛhɔ price sɛ deɛ mekan no yɛtɔ ne sɛn wɔ hɔ na AI ne de ama officer no nti sɛ AI ne de ma officer no na wo dia wotɔ no sɛ enduru saa ɛno no yɛ ma ho kwan sɛ wo na so akɔtɔ no fofofo nti fa ho nkrata ne ade bɛkyerɛ mi ehu sɛ no kure ne wo dia wokɔ ne nyame yɛ wadom ɛna wokonya no fofofo na wo de baayɛ na etumi kwa toa so sɛ watua kyerɛn ɛkwan a wotua no sɛ wo de fa bank sɛ wo de fa momu ana so yɛ nsɛn ama yɛhu ho nkrata ɛno na gye krogen adanse a ehu sɛ wotua ne nti ɛhɔ no yɛnyi free hɔ deɛ yɛka ne sɛ ɛbo a wode baeɛ no yɛhwehwɛ mu no yɛngye ntom na mmom sɛ wosipi sɛ wo deɛ saa na wonyaeɛ deɛ a bra na ɛno no ɛwɔ hɔ dadadada ansa na AI ne bɛba no na saa nhyehyɛ wei nyinaa ɛwɔ hɔ enti ɛno nso yɛaka kyerɛ dwadifoɔ ne ɔmo aboafoɔ no nyinaa sɛ ɛyɛ adeɛ a ɔmo te aseɛ dada nti AI ne ka ne officers ne ka sɛ yɛngye ntom a yɛne yɛfrɛ no appeal team ɔmo wɔ hɔ ɔmo yɛ adwuma debia 27 hours 24 hours yɛde ɔmo ahyem
appeal team no
appeal team
me ayifo di nkɔmɔ ano straightforward di nkɔmɔ mo se saa team no committee ne betena so twice in a week
ɛno yɛ sonko nti mame kyɛkyɛ wei mu nti saa appeal team no deɛ na ɛwɔ hɔ dada ansa na AI because tete ne nyinaa no obi ba na ɔka sɛ makɔtɔ ma deɛ ne yɛfiri sɛ yɛka sɛ wei deɛ ne sɛ ɛtɔ ne sɛ a woba ɔmo hɔ na wo de won krata abekere wo enti eno no so no enye AI na de ba ye hodada enti eno ye ka chom say da so ye adwuma didi said ya wo kan wo ba na aka so de wo konya anfo nyame wa adoma na se fa krata ne bra hye ekwan pa wo to no aha na America asem ya no omo ye de ba ne nyina no omo ye na ebusa ma ye ka so omo nkyira hu bebre na tese sika wo de koye no eburu de wo so wo to no enti ada se wo de aburu so na ba Ghana sika no na ehu se wo koye wo nya mfa so ya te so ama ana se weja no wo hode a ye ne ye be fa se ne eno ana wo to no enye de wo de kire krata so no na mom ye san de ekofofo atra appeal ni so omo ye nipa omo ye bia ni omo ye nipa be enan enum ene ye san de ba ko ato se okọ hompo te se dada no na wakoma anto ye mu a ye san de ba ko asi so
appeal court bi sa
eno no mu hia na wotwe mienu na wotwe bia mienu because ye ho adwuma na anti ba ko mienu bia ebeka e bia nipa kro no bo anto no na ye de akọ na no kra na ya makwa ye se ehu se ade ye ntentem a ya yetumi hia emre bia na ye nti eno mom ebu adwadefo no se so wakoma anto ye mu a mema nipa num no ensisiu ya te ekuo be nipa du sisi ade omo doso te say the Supreme Court ye shase 5 wanye ya ye de akoten no saa na chese omo so ahwehwem ama enti ahwehwem no na otwemienu se ahwehwem no adwadefo ni bi omo di bem saa ban ye pepre enti de omo niema omo de bai na no na ehwe so je eto no na wo so ebehwema efi se information enye we no na yasan aruli wo ho enti yenje ntumu se saa de no de bibia ahoche bia eba na wo hwe mu kra na chese eboa dwadefo because omo be ye kamafo ama omo
me na mako China na mako China ho phones yo mu ye ni different iPhone grade ya hodo bebre enti afa sa me ade ne grade 1 na papa ma akoto grade 16 the same iPhone na me de aba eno ne bo no any grade 1 bo no emsusun bedam enti ho no AI no iPhone obi anim sa iPhone say na tie say ya so na tie ba de grade 16 and I see at the grade 1 enti grade 1 no any grade 16 no say ba obe den AI ne be den ho say we grade 16 no ne bo no e wo form chair grade 1 and say no fa ni nyina say iPhone
there be eno na wo dwadi mu eto ogim ye fra na classification
okay
enema bia ya ye wo wiase nyina na bia wo ni code ayedema nti wo grade 1 na wo code ye nsonso ye free grade 2 code
eno ni HS code na
yes nti sa wo fa nsuo ya amode ye si he special ice na obi nso di nsuo about the same millimeters na ade no mo HS code na ye sonko
okay
wo special ice ne ye sonko chen we saa na phone mu ne edwade mu nema no so tie edi sa ukọ na okase ukọ grade 10 no because of grade 1 a ofa correct HS code na ye be hu na de tosom yenu wo wiase dwade mu no enema bia efri amono ne ba no ehye oman ne se omonfa ho eboa ye jeje a ye friend export data ansa na nema no be free wo ha ba no shipping line a wo de ba no any nipa all ton ne ma no omo de ko good database mu se sa de we se na me ton wa ha nti eno na first na ye ho kire ho se nipa akohwehwe mu a data ne bebre wan hwe ana fa oni so nti abefo AI ne de okosa data ne se okay me call China no company we a oye export no oso sa de me ton ni se nti wo ba na se o se wan nya ne sa na se o ma se bia okoye no okodi hu nkomo ne ateso ama na de ho evidence aba na chese ya hwehwem na ya ajatum wenye no de na chese company oton ma na information say sa na eman ya wo fe sa na me ton no krom ho eno abefa no eno na AI an say okay bibia okoye no sa na nipa kra okodi dwa ho no se oton no enti eno ho na ye de behwe na conference ma ban conference so ema wo
sa chise amoye no mo ne mu stakeholders share di hu nkomo guta freight forwarders wo mo ka nyina no munu wo mo edi hu komansa na mu roll out sa hye
no kra to say dem kan no ye hu adwuma nyina wie no afi ne bosum edi kan January no enka ye betumi aye ba ya anye ye so ye fancy kwan mu enti edi kan fra guta ne agents o ma boafo no ye no mo ye dako echechro mu ne ade say ba de be ye ne ade nyina ye wie ne san fa aban adwuma kuo nso aye no mo ye adwuma o port omo so se ne on beti ase ansa na ye san fa media for reporters kakra nso achecho mu enti bosum edikan de adwuma ye no se be man kofo ate ase na o kan so ansa na ye bedu January mpo no wo afi atwa ne bosum nsiano no Dr. Kase ato force no call parliament o kan se ye de ba nti efi ho ye sa sese ye ne edwadifo ne dinku komo nti gutafo se ye hia omo me akra me call mo office ko hia omo kekan wo high street ye de ba o ye de ba na ye ready January so ansa na ye san hia omo nti na me sin mu se na gutafo mpanyimfo wo ho na freight forwarders mpanyimfo wo ho other associations na de no mo ho nti no de chinie bia ni ho omo nim se hia na egitum so sa de aba foforo no eho adesua no ntumi mfa dako enye nti ye hyase nso no ye san na omo ye nkita ho mfa omo den sensem ba nyina ye hia na otwe twam ye ne omo ka se ebehia se ye ne omo be hihye kuo kakra tena ho GI wo ho Ministry of Finance omo so mfa no ministry mra nti niema ha omo keka ne nyina no ye hia ne adwenwe ho ye nyina ye mfa so se ne enye nti no boa ma ye nyina ye kire adwen a ebeye nti no ne ye sro omo se ade na aba ne de fi se be boa oman no omo so se how na mom ye tra ho ne adwenwe ho bibia how ma ye fi se ha te se de ba ko edi kan ye se oman nye correction ne hu se how mo no ye twe sign so mom ye to aso because ye pese be ha mo na mom ye koye ni mu na ye kire mo musua wi na mbetumi aya na eja mo mama ye san hyehyɛ ho no na ye no omo ye sisia
ye rabi ne wo muhia wo fie ha ama ye di nkomo freight forwarders ene gutafo e ba ha sada no na kame se system no wo mo pekra wo mo ni sheda enye ho esan se wuti gutampanyifo na se ema cost of doing business kra kosoro ema ba kokro mo kan se ade na se AI no ekohwehwe ade no buomu na se wo famu a eno GR se mempene na ewo soro de a ene mepene nti akoba ne sa na se kama se de GR ne pena no o pese ohwehwe na no pe na se do pena no ohwehwe na mo anye de AI na ka kire no se ade no price no wo foma na se wo low no eho no betumi aboa me ati ase
eho ne hia nchechemu kakra na me ne menuanom ne mpanfo mo anya adwen wo ho enye se te se de medical kan na nye AI no eno kra na ye decision ne se otuo ni ana anya otuo ni AI ne de information na ma customer officer na customer officer na hwem eboa no ma wa ye to no hyehyɛ no intentem na de kai ne se AI ne se de medical kan no nema bia beba de AI be ka so ohwehwe mu kɔ ekure free so na amano ne nyina no ebo wo form pa obi atɔ ye bia 5 cedis ebo wo soro pa wo hu so obi atɔ ye 10 cedis nti ama range nti wo ba na wo demu a AI no nka hwe no ama
between 5 and
10 no obetiki green wacha wo dem nti se wonya no 5.5 se wonya ne 6 se wonya ne 7 wo hu so obi atɔ 5 da nti wo ba na ka se wo ye 6 a on challenge wo obi ato 10 da oba na aka se wo ye 11 obeka se wo bo no wosoro ba wo demu a obema wo green na emom de kan ne se de medical kan se first no na edwadifo ne omboafo no ene officer 1-on-1 omo na omo hyehye ebo a wo de ba na nipa ba akon wagina ho na one na kasa enti ye officer ye ka chom se obi ba na se AI ne se de wo hu wo wiase nyina e wo form pa ye 5 cedis na obi ba no ka se beton TCD sa wonkwa officer ba ko no men hye wo ho anji 2 cedis ni ntum because ene ye nema na yesi ho to ne bi first no bi a wonkwa ba ji 2 cedis na kana yo bi afechire nti anu de oba no ka se o ye 2 cedis na AI no se ebo a wo hu a wo form pa ye 5 cedis a wo officer no ma wonkwa hye wo ho na ma ne nko ho no nipa be enum enan bi wo ho fa ko kire obo no mu enhwehwem ene dwadini no emfa ne ho nkrata mra nche se 2 cedis na yampa wo tutua ya sika wo de ko amano ne wa trema o ma hwehwem nti eno ne ka se manipa ba ko enhye no ho na se ya anya ne saade a ene se obia be ka se mebuoni na adwuma na ya adwuma ho nti enye se bia oba o ka se wo de 2 cedis se chinchina anche AI ne da bi ye se manipa ba ko enhye kokuom ene dwadini no enhyehyɛ ho ebiem nipa enan enum ombetena se no ma hwehwem omo hwehwem na odwadini no eno wa se wante ase a na wasan de aba second one enti me fi say ye ade a ye pepe ye ma aban ni dwadifo enyina
se ye nkoma ye di ne nanope ye ne yewura Anthony Kwesi Sapon wono ona ye Commissioner General Adema Ghana Revenue Authority ena nanope yi ode ne mere abedom yen a wo kyerɛkyerɛ public and sa AI a ye kan AI said about man for betiase AI a omode ba port ahodo no said be betumi agina so de agegege eto ne nema no wo kyerɛkyerɛ mu ade amayem ye hwe nsamo a unkyerɛkyerɛ mu ade me ya obi kyerɛkyerɛ ka say na se we say ense da nya asem bia saa o din na ti na so say be ma ade a wa kyerɛkyerɛ mu a ye so simple ade makofa aba me pesanka me turn 10 cedis me so me turn 2 cedis na say 2 cedis to na mabetua na oman be janso fast oman be boka na say system be ba na tumi with the actual price am the turn na say we nka nya sem bia o but the kind say mate so obi kura say o de court say court mfa ne santo so say mamu fa nya mate ni nyina de na mo ye de afa ho
yo enti de dika yep say on mining interest ene ankwanko interest edu ba bia na koba bra say ebeko together ene na ye hu say ye ansan ye de sa abefu be ba no na ban boka en abefu kwa me hu say enye nipa ni nyina na ema ban boka kakra ye hu no bosu mienu che say ohanchichemu edonunum 25% ena AI no ekasa omo niam na bi no mu hwehwem emu 75 de AI ne se ono omo yepe and no na ema $3 million a day na chesa aban boka
this is sikanka
ebe ba aban ho no
3 million de bia
yes kaye hu enti na chesa aban boka enti wu yi sa sika we free nipa nsemu a ese wo se wo nya no bete ebe ya prapre enti eno na yesre edwadifo ne o ma nyina se wo to ogyem no de pepe wo yentimi ntra se o man ye se de mrabu o man no na emomo bi de oba odi so kronjen obi so ye kanana na ne ho ato no enti se eya na bebo ama obi atua ne pepe de a se ye nyina no ye gitum na ye boa na ye so a ye wo giare no nhyehyɛ biara a ɛyɛ ahokyɛ kakra ne ade no yɛahyehyɛ nie ma ayɛ kama nti me fi sɛ sɛ nipa bi pray a ɛsɛ ɛte asɛ sɛ sika a yɛhu first no na ɛkɔ obi hɔ na sisi a ne yɛ pray ma ban hɔ nti ɛnyɛ bɛtɛ
uyi na no aduane
uyi na no aduane nti ɛnyɛ bɛtɛ nti ɛsɛ ɛfa mmara kwan so na egyina pintin sɛ ɔman nyinaa because yɛni sika a yɛ rules na yɛntumi nyɛ yeni sika ye hospital na yentumi nsi yeni sika nema bebre na yentumi nye sisi ankwara kra bebre ofie aba yentumi inform saba oska obetumi afom ontumi ntua so a onye enti sika ekọ ankwankwa botom no na ye oman ne na ye luso oba unu bia otifie no onye adwuma no ni sika betua ne ka na ekọ obi ho no wakọ hospital machines ho eni ho no sa scared beton na wo obi botom no okwan ya ofa so da bia total spare parts no o sa sika na ko obi botom te se ye nyina ye bie ne ne ka se ye mbo aban ne ndi ne krema aban na banye sika na afi de asan yire aban se sika na ye de ma no fa kwan pa so ne fa ye adwuma nti nipa wo man mu no broni be ka se your responsibility se ye betua eto so wi ane ayire aban se fa ye adwuma pa eno na ye GR de sie ni so se eto no de oman ne de mra na fa oman panyi so ahye nsa nti ese age no kwampa so na oman mo no so esi oman panyi ani so no akoso eyi
baby ba ko ho a maybe sa question we answer wukọ ye border towns na wakọ aflauda
makọ aflau yam si east nyina no meko esrim meko northern region savannah so ekohwe kwasasra me mai wo ho ene me nuan mai wo ho so
what fa aflau border no B1 B2 akopin B12 what fa hoda you say ye border no polarized
yeah
what bibisa wo ho mo tu ho na mo bi sanse niam be fa suma se wo man no mu no a omuntu ato no bebre
ampa enti ade ba kwan hu ni se enam se yere to no port ana airport ana baby e ho ye kese no nipa su de o pass we no papa na o je na no aduane no ebi mu so ebe fa kwambone so e de na ma aba our broadcaster e fresh smuggling enti adwin we nyina ho enti ye ne national security aye ekuo bi a omune na nam kwan so eastern corridor, western corridor, northern corridor na a whole set of informal schema omuso ya hyase enti oma aye oma adwen se omode ne ma no be fefa saa me nyina no yekoko no ebi gina kwan so ebi nhyɛ atade na no no de eno giare no ya yiri mu sɛ yensa so mu a oniema no ye ege na ye de ama abai ama aye esuade ama obi obepse obefa so sɛ to no na wo dodge na emom wo dodge to no na ye kyewo de a udwetre ni nyina no ye gye oniema no a waboka wo dwetre na hwe a obeso wan hwe a ontumi nsɔre bio wa obesɔre bio no so ebeche enti eno de ye sre ye nuanom sɛ ye de to ne bu mai ehun hia sɛ ye be sɛ GR beje oniema na maka sɛ GR papa o tra ni trimu ode mi trimu nya de because o ma man boka ye nyina no aboyen ka ɛna ɔman mu nyina no me na edi me si wo sɛ me ndi nipa dom na chi me anjeje to no ɛno me ntoto na se nti me nuanom a ebi ato ɔmo da na ɔmo adi dance oba me ho a meje oniema no de a nokure ni meje oniema na ekwa aba botom ruano no na ye esuade ti mesre ti ye di nipa agu kwan so ye sa so mu a ye nje mu nti obia ndi kwan pa so na afa de obia anya na dwuma because ɔman no adwuma die ni dwadie no ehu hia eboa ema ankrankro eye omadwuma omoye omadwuma so a ebie mu manipa bi eye adwuma ena nam so ma ban eye de egeto enti GR no nyese to pe na ege ye boa ema sa nwuma we nyina no se kosoro na mo nipa makoma a ya no mpese omo ha oman no omo na no ye so mu a na no se no mo adi no kwampa so
we enkonkoma ayina ayedwadifo no bi any free forward for no ka se ebema ye neighboring country for instance Cote d'Ivoire say na ni abre pa bibi ni port ni hihye mu ntino ebema revenue be nye wa ha no ebekọ from sense importers be decide so be use ada oman ada amanfoforo no ports e dey account niam we no ha adwene
yengi ni se ebe ha yan kra efri se abefu ya ye ken e wo Togo omo yishase ansa na ye ye isu Togo fo yusu enti ukofa ho a ebeyo o de kofa Ivory Coast na otwi mefa ansa ene ye memenda yawoda obi nam so Ivory Coast for approach me say na ya me ye adwuma no omo so suma nkofo aba ho me abesu aye de no enti ya de a ye free ewiase krobi World Customs Organization ukom website a in the brofu din the public ano Google a omo age omo atum say ya de eboa ma customs adwuma ne to ojeje no eye enti amanko bebre ahyase age omotum enti bade e kan say okofa amanone a ene na yede nkofo agu kwan so no oba na ofa elubo ana ba bi foforo otua auto na ufa hwa obesa eto yedo na wo elubo ho ebo zisi ani ayema bebia odi na ma afa bia no na wo ho nti udu ho a yebesa ajo nti yenji ni se ebe ha yen kra
asi we de yansa na beko no bi se na me kra ka ba ye na ka no di morage chi no na mo je film nsam na mo ton no fofofo anka mo twen anka me tua no kakra mpo na anka duty ni me tua wie ya sanka me fa yo eno mo ye bibia fa ho
yo enti mrakwan mu no ode ne ma ba aban ne mawo be bosumi na otwi mienu se betua wo duty na wafa wo ne ma se na otwi miensa na otwi mienu na afi de no so wa meya na esan de na otwi ba ko atoso na koye na otwi miensa enti na otwi miensa no eno so wa meya na de akoto ba bia se ya bɔ no kokɔ ye mane nkosa na ya bɔ no kokɔ edi bosumi na edi bosumi mienu na still untumi meye ya na mrakwan mu no na se ya publish se oniema ne ba ya ma na otwi mienu wa meyi na otwi miensa wa meyi ye san de akoto ba bia ya bɔ no kokɔ bosumi mienu aba wa meyi enti ye ma bosumi ba kwa ka ho se wa meyi dia na koye bosumi miensa dia aban de ne sabeto so na enrum aban obi a obetumi no wato na aban agye ne tax free mu enti saa na te enti enya ade a ye ne putumpum take 3 months na yesan abokoko wom na nunu akire still ebi mo mba mekura na aye na nwanwa se wadi sika akotoka na abedu Ghana ha na bosume miensa umeyi aya na ye nwanwa na enema a ye de hihye kwan ma abo nipa ne se mrakwan mu no oba na obehu ye na ochechire mu se woye wadwuma usika wunya ni na ye ma kwan a obetua yetimi ma omrese bia bosom miensa bosom nsuan tutua nkakra fa waka no na mo wo bedi nukre na ya na sometimes nipa no kwenti Ghana ni ode ka na mana otwini hwehwehwe no se ne obe kai ne se bosom ba no mra kwam na wo ho enti ye hwehwe mu na the woman se mra se ebi ndi ni kwenti no wo ba koje insurance bond se when tua at least aban moka because ye the massa na wa metua aban boboka nti utumi nya no de a wo ba ye beguma ma de tosum ye nu ne banks no so aye dwuma bank bi te say apsa ye pilot sisia te wo de oni amaba na se duty no utumi ntua wo ko antentem mu a wo be ma loan sisia so Dr. Kase ato force na doms interest rate na ba form into mama 3 months 6 months de wo wa ho de betumi na o matua sika na eto ne mfa nhyɛ wo nsambom betua ma ban na yehu se etua ma ban na ema wo yi oniema no na no so ono nti te se wan koje insurance a otumi koje bank nti saa hyehyɛ ya na de aba se ebebo adwadefo nti na kyese nye ade so ama o mo se chinchin se wo bae no mentumi ntua meto nti utumi nam kwan we so nyina no na wodi no kra wobenya sika yi oniema ntem na de ka so so mienu se sisia no ye system aye operate wa ha no adwadefo no bebre ombetwe ma bosumi na otwemienu na aso ansampo na oma yese omo beyi niema no ya system aye no ansa na ship no bedu ha na otwemienu ansa na niema no bedu Ghana ha no utumi ebetua esase utumi betua na o watua na niema no na mposo ba edu ya ntentremu no wayi nti ano demorage na de encho nti ye cheche adwadefo ne oma edi niema nyina aba so omo take advantage omo nti na de aba nti na sisi anso no omampanya da Roma ya ye 24 no port enti ye run 3 shift enti ibia ni ho se ese oniama bedu na echa na otua demorage wo ye oniama ne ntem na otwe mienu ansa na niema na ba wo hihye miema wo etua obetua na ye nkakrakra otua niema no bedu ya contemporary na woyi enti yemfa we nya adesuade na yemfa improve sibia ye clear niema na ka aya de na ho ayeba no yetimi eyi fi ho
Yura no pebe da se ne ye sori so no afutu ben na wode ma na se wo se betwa to de ma Ghana fo nyina adwade fo nyina ni free forward fo nyina
yo meda wase yam say wo Christian for season mo de ever say for Easter season na chese ne mafufuro aba nti wode toto ho a eno aso na wo omampanya ni so reset no say yensa yechi ne yenhwe say ebesisi oman na mmeye oman pa mayen da chefo na ebe sa de we a enam sika so na sika no so enam eto ne beba enti eto bia obetua no hu se eno ne de bo oman akodanim na to bia so a ye ntua no hu se o road 1 kilometer na amba ukromu school ama na cheso obi ntua ne to o hospital enya adwuma na obi ntua ne to unua bia na adwuma akama onye no eto no na amba enti oman nyina no omenso emwa ma eto asese etua no hu to asese otua gitum se obetua na ye we nyina ye nyina no ye be som baako na ya taa o mampanyanchi na aboa ma oman no akọ nanim
Owura Anthony Kwesi Sapon wono ono ye Commissioner General Edema Ghana Revenue Authority ana ennememene ene April day to sudu baako efipimi no adunu nsia waba ye fie ha ene ya betwetwe nkomo afa AI a omode aba port ahodo no ene de beye de abo oman no ay republican no how ka republican na so oman no kwa Ghana na oka republican no AI no wabechichiri na chese kakra bi omoye kakra bi kura na se da bia da no na sika enwunu efa ba bi ko gu amkronkro bi botom no na 3 million US dollars enye sika ketwa nti efa nsan kebembe da kopim fiada no na be $15 million na wotwe ebi omu panti yɛbɛhwɛ kwaku ahodoɔ no nso asɔre sɛ wɔn mpene ɛne ho sɛ bebree ba no sɛ ɛdan a yɛbɛnya no kɔmasi brɛka nti yɛbɛkɔ so a ne adwendwene ho na yɛayɛ no sɛdeɛ abɔ apɔnkye ɔde aduane hyɛ n'afono mu de bɛpu awesa na yɛdan a ɛbɛfe moho na yɛamene na yɛtumi anya ahoɔden sɛ wɔman nti bɛgyina me wura no manan mu ɛne production team anan mu de aseda ama papaapa sɛ wɔnya berɛ aba fie a biribiara ne yɛgye di sɛ wɔbɛsan aba ne no wadi nkɔmmɔ
yɛda mo ase paa yɛsɛ da mo ase sɛ ɛnam mo so na ɛnya kwan kyerɛkyerɛ ɔman nyinaa nti ɛma obiara akye bio
nti yɛbɛgya no kwan na wakɔ na sɛ wɔkɔ a na baabiadwafoɔ nso abɛtena ase na afei yɛn nkɔmmɔ ahodoɔ no voxy yɛse yɛnsɛ sɛ yɛde kɔ long distance for commercial purpose ɔmo se daabi nso hwee a yɛmpene ana afei taxes ahodoɔ ɛda fango so a mampani ahyɛ finance minister ne energy minister so mo hwere mo yi bi mfi so no ho nsɛm bebree nti yɛkɔ baabiadwafoɔ bɛba ama yɛde nkɔmmɔ mo ntwɛn yɛ awie yekoya yaba na amabedwafo abeka me nsa wa ha na de wo mo mmerɛ ne yagibi pa na so ne nyina ka ho bi na yɛde kyekyere ɔman na ɛna nɔpa yi wo mo abeka me nsa me no obedi nkɔmɔ me nifa so Alhaji Nasiru Muhammad Deputy Director General National Identification Deputy Executive Secretary NI wo ha Ghana card no pani wo no wo ɛna de otoa me so na mbeku so de di kan wa ha no Benjamin Sia Benjamin de efia de ne no a kame ya shanka ise ma no permanent e kwara nkobetena na ka ne ye adwuma all the executive director at the Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy mufanchemi wono so wa ha de otoa no so bia kwanta de she lawyer ni ya sompa wa bin papa skase we otumi twere bi no de abra me kan wi amenti ase na mshi yo ma kan na wa twere so doing business in Africa doing business the challenges nya grokra anti ya wa ha ana fe dia otwato wa kire ho no Atiki Yakubu udini Atiki Atiki Yakubu na one father son father
Osman only different
enti Atiki Yakubu oba ba ku bi dida bi no wan ba biu bena na party na so ma ne so mra enti Atiki so be kan sa o Atiki na makai se ena yenua ba ku Kumasifo Atiki Asantema Atiki Ghana fo Atiki ena ne yeja no kwan e Kumase ena yeja Atiki kwan e Kumase sabra make say ukodu Kumase nyasem kuma kra enti yema Atiki ene na busu Atiki na kase madam refadue ene amane hunu na ye ono ankasa na busuya so yema ne shed yo mu nyina shedin papa ena na wotwe so na me so bi jame nua ba kwan tie mani abre pa na so be ni den tie no Alhaji salamu alaikum
wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi alhamdulillah da nyan kupo aso
ben bia boko ena fi ya sompa ma me hwe ya no pay anti no pay ma chi o se bibia boko
me na dum na so
dum na bia ena Atiki Akwaba se bibia boko asi yeda se yeda masene momre ena no pay ma yen koni taw pan we no time to delay pa yen hwe Alhaji yenim se ansa na mobo ba mu na de ba ko a ye kan wasam ye nyina de anu to mu bi pa ene sa adapa asem bia na eyi ne tie di se LGBTQ+ minim se de Sam George kasa fa ho minim se de sabre in opposition mo kasa de fa ho ema ekomrahye bedwam ema mrahye bedwafo nyina agitu mu na ekomampani na nado ho ama de nsa chance no ena osi akwan si kwan enti wontumi ankokudu ni nchen ama na fa ne chance mobaye afinie ene boso be mienu miensa ni yen shed amafo ka se madi Ghana fo nyina hwammo esanse se de mo sie opposition efa LGBTQ samsam no mobaye mo twetwe mo na ase esanse mampani se de amafo ka no eno nhyeda anya ade hu hia Ghana fo pa sabere ena just mampani ade a wo ka sa hu hia pa no afi da wo si enhu nhyeda hia na I said this for dada Ghana for asofa kasa ankwankwa kasa NPPI press conference ene honsam mamiti osimadu
yo bedase be say ye de chia sombo ebe ma ahwefo ene ya chiefo ni menua no nyina ya be hia wa ha no pe na efe se Ghana for ato abade ama NDC na NDC amanyoku no aban ene wo aban mu sese emra no yenya akwenya se ya ma omwehu ade a ye sonko ndi me the first minute no ebe kai Ghana for say na wotwe a etwe mu no say from Monday be pem na Saturday me the kai no ye modern board the trade ministry any na pamfo ebo ye say wɔn ɛto nsuo ɛne challenges wɔn pɛ sɛ wɔn to ɛboɔ no so no wɔtumi ɛne wɔn akasa ama yɛm sɛ ntiase aba ama wɔn bɛtoa wɔn adwuma no so saa wabra yɛnto pure water so wofiri hɔ a aban etumi abɔ ne ho mbɔden establish ne yɛfrɛ no the fiscal council a ne botae kɛseɛ ne sɛ wɔn bɛhwɛ ama ya tenetene yɛn economy and governance sɛnea ɛbɛyɛ a yɛbɛ enforce physical discipline na ɔman sika no yɛmfa nkɔyɛ basabasa yɛtɔ so mmiɛnsa am sɛ yɛn nyinaa yɛhunu sɛ the Ghana Statistical Service nso ɛde bɛtu dwa na wɔtwetwe mu yi sɛ ɛnɛ Ghana yɛtumi areporte bɛyɛ 7.5% of growth a yɛ year on year in January 2026 na yasan so abɔ yɛ hombɔden ama energy ministry ne finance ministry sɛ wɔn bɔ wɔn hombɔden sɛnea ntɔkwa ɛkɔ so ɛwɔ Iran ne America Israel ne nea ɛkeka ne fango nsɛnsɛm no aban ayɛ krado sɛ ɔbɛte taxes ne bi so sɛnea ɛbɛyɛ a pressure no ɛnkɔ Ghana for ankorankora nkyɛn na wɔn ho ankɔ kyerɛ wɔn.
Na ko sɛ bɛdi ho nkɔmɔ no pɛi. Nti no edu hɔ a bɛtumi aka wasɛm hɔ.
Good. Na yasan so ayɛ open recruitment portal a kyɛ sɛ yɛne Barbados wɔn a wɔyɛ nurse for health service a yɛwɔ wɔn bebree no yasan nya Barbados de abɛka ho sɛ wɔn pɛ sɛ wɔn kɔyɛ adwuma wɔ hɔ a na yama wɔn akɔyɛ adwuma transport ministry nso abɔ ne ho mbɔden
Alaji
ɛde bɛ 100 metro masses
Alaji me da so bebree me ma 10 minutes almost yes. About 3 minutes in
na America no we hia me papa
hu hia wo say kai topic
no
aka next time mo fa mra say dia man ye ni na accountability
na dey kese ne say Moody's a movie economy no from stable to positive
okay
me da say your mind Ghana ko ni mi
me da say mo better airtime
na yɛmfa yɛ no
mo fa nyɛ
ba sɛ Ghana for no yɛsɛ accountability wo hwɛ yɛn constitution no wo hwɛ yɛn
ti mo beto airtime ma mo time no mo tumi aba account ni nyinaa no problem
me kakra kra no amaka me gidi sɛ Ghana for ate ama wɔn nso wɔn benya arehye mu sɛ aban no aba no ɛbɔ no ho body kwabra LGBTQ issue ɛne bibia aba bibia me deɛ me ka de bibia sɛ ankanyɛ sɛ sebi yɛwɔ useless opposition dead in ideas and glaringly unpatriotic and kasa asem we yɛde ha and kasa asem because let's do all the logical analysis to the issues na yɛmfa brave yi mene wo ti hei paper bi anaasɛ LGBTQ law bi ɛwɔ every parliament at the akọ John Dramani Mahama office and John Mahama ka say on the onimre a or the bear baby the historical antecedent LGBTQ bill we are one more de buy one more mudi enim penyin ba ko mo ye Honorable Sam George mekai Helena Tunso ene ne ekeka wotie wo mo ye san hyehyeye no emre na atwemu anase nanado da kwa akufo ado ba me abre so no a womu actually mu pefe say womu start here no kra womu nya support ewo MPP for bi nchen be 4 na before bill ne be ba parliament na ye de bibia akoso na akọ mampanyin nchen no na MPP for no womu nyina edwane amaka Reverend Ntimfo Jope na eka womu ho a womu pushi sa bill na agenda sa bill no ya ye bie ama ye de akoma ye de koma omampanyin senia embra na setie na onfa ne sa enhyase omampanyin eye ni obetime ye bia including going to court to say no obi amfa sakrata ne bre no me no ka say John Dramani Mahama is there any such situation ewo ni baby secondly one more edi animu ana one more di say djuma no ho akotene no eda so ewo ho sisi a ye nyina ye hu ne ekọ so wo parliament say senior parliament say 10 no abawie ye no ye betimi de krata no akosa e de ama new president na wa ba no e na parliament say de bi wo muntumi pe wo mu checheye no se parliament no ekɔ wie ya edwuma ana bibia wo mo hye nhyehyɛ bi o mo ye no eno so akɔ wie ama new parliament no na best start now new parliament no so best start no me kasa na me ka kyerɛ wo sɛ wo mo die ni baako eye ye fɛ Sam George em say now on no lead ye fɛ advocate ɛwɔ Nana Dankwa Akufo so abreso and then me no ka say bill na ye di akɔ parliament say yes amra ne kyerɛ sɛ yɛn san fa nkɔ bio Sam George ya na ye lead wo mo na mo ka ho elenton so ne ne yɛkeka o mu nyinaa gusu ka except for wo mo ye members of wo ansa amba parliament bio. Now if that is the case now I was a parliament and a we are not the akoma president na parliament enya nko yes ade no a emfa and a ye be ye ne say enne bremu a ye timu ya enne wo da sori a wo nim prices of food ese na ebeko esa ntoko a ekoso ye njaye no na ye mbegina parliament so would kin any abane ye benze belt ni ne yekeka ho say wo mu yes a law no emfa brand terminal president is high which is the priority.
Do you are you saying say because say abia asem bi esi obabi ntokwa bi esi obabi na eno ewo ho ni ntino ade e fa yankasa ye gidie ye dachi ye nyame sum ye bribia ho no eno no ye fa ne se ho nhye da hia papa wo bra mo opposition no mo bi ehunu se e ade ho hia se tumi tu wana mo
ena me say ena ye tumi di ye bibia de come president one sign one sign into one to me and can say one sign into president Fufu Aba yemfa mano na be move say beti ba yen sa and the parliament can say yen to me yen sa this say your sign start at the end Fufu and the parliament as start at the no John Dramani Mahama kan che so munjai NDC penyi bia ngira bibia mfa wo mon court say wo munjai ye beka ya MPP ambreso nkopo ya start sa ndoma we no how many times na dey wo court one na dey wo court and yen MPP for enti se ne edwuma no ekoso wo parliament se ne sefata na kakran be ye na wo mo apase dia bre president no mo nya nwie ya mo se ye nja ni aye kana Ghana po ma ebre wo ko hospital ye say there are no beds one year wo pe kwan I make sure say businesses will be fluid no mo so nya ban ho mfaso no ye nja enu nyina na yembe gina ade a ya wie na anka president bi epe Ghana for edwen Ghana for sene ya wo kan ya anka wasan amanda ye ni problem dia na ono one sign na ye ka kire ye nso a me de emi wanwan kese no say metie MPP for mpanyi for na Catholic Bishop Conference abekasa wo moni age na we abekasa wo moni age very good me bomb abaso the Catholic Bishop me bo obi biara always concerns abaso. But questions are maybe some raising issues, no. Omo can say that gives the MPP a year document, a year be a passing law, or parliament. They are come out, so does that give them the right to come into this debate again?
When we say a be election, we need no sir LGBTQ ya mampeni na na don fa ne sa hyase no. E kan be na kofo about the
certainly.
And you know, e be be ahunya Ghana for pa metuma ka say e asamba ko ba ya almost all religious bodies all beliefs I can say sade no enko yi nto munyana sori ginai
very good
enti se obi anye na hu se ekoso na ade na wo aba no munya ebia munya ne ntam koso majority parliament se mo kasa bo be ye ne ntam mo twa ntam kpakpakpa no mo emu safi hu
correct and I say dey na kire me no yet Ghana hasisi yi himfa and wakote se obi di delay bi abasa atsem no one more did delay by and say from George most started say what they are some way corner. How many times na do one more call court? Say you bet you am assign you.
Some dey twam.
And American until now be the one court. So who is delaying it? Parliament will processes. Some processes no and also on fast answer when the normal at the abre your the president to say but we me want to sign as here. John Dramani Mahama up to today amena okasai neither John Dramani Mahama or any leading member of the NDC and can say Sakrat and woman sign. But we had the MPP people say so. And you won't Casano and up to today, or Muba, who cry and to be betray you, Nimaka and say, Sadia, yeah, no, I'm saying, Puso, and to move on chain. And this will be a BB, and then now if you say it will even look to that direction, yes, you be a Casano. Who gave them that right to speak? Wabra Momo Diano will be a Mamuha. Now I catch them say because Catholic bishops are speaking, you too you have the right to speak. Who gave you that right?
I didn't tell them to be in.
Because you declare a man or doing Ghana for who are doing LGBTQ who are. Yeah, yet law no parliament to the man say on sign and become a law. And no cast on ye. I'm on court to problem to be a somebody a patapa de brand my court are blocking Momo. Has he come to explain to us why he did that? Has the MPP come to apologize to us? No, he say, oh, Sam Reno, now or movie say, be papa na net, or mo say be papa and Sam Reno, young one tell him. No, Munya Quine and Casa some way. Oh, my, sir.
Okay.
How can they take Ghanaians for some fools and think that they can do anything? And your oppositioner, Yenya, when we are so irresponsible, when we are being in our say, the only way they can come to power is make sure say obenya baby body akapa obi hu and yes sir what the idea yes from go send your dondamani Mahamat na seka say made the idea say yes from go beba now mine na ko ni man ne ye hunu sa ideas from me starting me the very 1 minute eka progress ya just last week alone. And for me the matter is very so straightforward. Obi biara or you interested say yem fasa asem we ana yen in ntemu no em so on for pressure on to parliament so and parliament in its entirety metie the speaker of parliament who has been an advocate on this bill metie one more yem pinifo Sam George our lead advocate in Mayoma. I heard him even yesterday reiterating his position say ono kra gidi say LGBT issue no kahuntina we go pram for a vote no man vote onye bida into on than in the chi and mawom. So we have the consensus.
Okay.
But the consensus ends at Yaya law ne we dia koma John Mahama say mean sign send nanado ye no. Then we begin to talk about it.
All right.
That is my point.
Me that's it. I think utie the allergy kanya na o che sanka momo mabreso na mapena nado e de na sasha sanka se bo nkran kenu akatwem dadaada. Okay. And now she say mo na mo agye mo amu press conference no ho nsem bibre. Ade no koto mampani anim. Enti why did we blame mampani say we did trash Ghana for?
Okay. Today the kind me the chairman ahwefo na meeting Alhaji Naziru no. Now I was a bit surprised. Because no say yan sign bill no. And even some of the comments that he was making in relation to President Akufo-Addo and sign a bill no MP4 making sure say bill no man sign the draft no court the bill no court no man sign and question the court draw opposition to the bill and all that all were all lies. There is no time, there is no document. I just say presidency or the president of Ghana did this bill no Supreme Court say they should take against it. There is no time, there is no evidence anywhere. He can produce the evidence to me if you think he has any evidence like that. It never happened. The issue was simple. There's something called advocacy. Almost started that advocacy against the LGBTQ. And in fact, they didn't even start somewhere. They didn't even start somewhere in the 2022. Almost started somewhere 2018. And I started advocacy in the say, oh, we need to pass a bill on LGBTQ issues. We need to have a proper family values and all that. Since 2018, eventually, Sam George sponsored that bill. No, all of them, including majority to Muse LGBTQ is something that they do not support. None of them support it, and I don't believe that any of us sitting here has any belief in that LGBTQI right. Yeah, I tell you now, we are against it, and it was the same position. MPP as majority in Parliament then was also holding on. So on what regard is he saying that MPP was against the LGBTQ bill? There's no evidence to that. In fact, there are hazards in Parliament, there are comments in Parliament that stated that MPP did support the bill that Sam George was passing. It was a unanimous thing. President Akufo-Addo. What he said was that somebody has filed a case at the Supreme Court challenging the passing of the bill. So if there has been a challenge on it, he will have to wait for the Supreme Court to pass its verdict before or no back sign the bill no. And that's an here, which is kind of the injunction to bill no so. And we all know Richard Sky. Richard Sky no MPP ni. No Richard Sky as an advocate of MPP. Simply best who says Richard Sky ejina so campaign with MPP. That thing like that existed. So when he makes a comment, say MPP4 was against the bill, they do not have the moral right to talk about this bill today and all that. So I kind of find it very strange. But let's even assume. Young fan say, no Kenny and the press say MPP didn't want to sign the bill. What prevents you from also passing the law? It's as simple as that. More the 33 certificates of agency, more passing 33 certificates of agency. LGBTQ issues. Part of the reason that we vote in the 2024 election. So in what you have done was that you have quickly move in to pass it under certificates of agency, like the 33 certificates of agencies that you guys are passed in parliament. It's as simple as that. You have been in government for 1 year, 3 months or so. What prevents you from pushing the bill? What prevents you from pushing that bill, which was so much important to you in March 2025? What prevented you from pushing that bill? What that was so much important to you in April 2025? What prevented you from pushing that bill again in September 2025 when you had all the time to pass it under certificate of agency? Which, if you think that it was that important to you, it's just simple. You have no interest in the bill. Eti man can't tell me say president no yamfa adopting bill between the name so he cannot sign anything before bill no be ekupa do honum somewhere early 2024 ebeko on the deck so early 2024 was there any bill in front of him? There was no bill in front of him, but there were advocacy. So the opposition that you call useless, the opposition often useless are also advocating that Jamana Mokai in opposition no emani yes say mo buy the next day number sign bill no you catch himself sign the bill, just pass it into law. It's been 1 year and some months. Why don't you just pass it? It's as simple as that. So it's not about message. You're trying to say MPP. You're trying to say MPP. You're trying to say, and that's what you're trying to say. You're crying. You're trying to say, don't know. You're sign. You're trying to say, you're trying to say, sign. What prevented you from over 1 year now from signing the bill? Don't give me any excuse or justification. You have a huge majority in parliament, but majority of parliament. One of the scary things that NDC has been able to do. I don't know if you'll be catch 2024 say NDC in some few months was the removal of the Chief Justice. The leader of an arm of government, not me in some few months, not a year. Oh, most start within February, March, by August, September, no more in the market if you honor.
Omo family kwan so na say
me say there be some family kwan so o man family kwan so and then there some am no go super for her right. Me say within some few months omo to make clear no. Simple. What prevents you from passing this bill?
Okay.
Baby you know it's not about talk shop again o. Also bet my ya man share. You say you say MPP and pass the bill no. MPP for exporting LGBTQ issues. In fact, we should be the Malik Basintali. And in fact, I'm just to make it that same argument. Kupado, Obuso, Nimbia, your friend is saying the same. Or no castle or no supporting gay rights. And Ekobia or no supporting gay rights. And Kebe Kupado because or no one Nebusa friend become into homosexuality and all that. Look, let's assume it. Young fan say, the Muka no credit. More supporting gay rights in homosexuality. No. Why don't you pass that bill that you love so much? Simple as that. Yeah, it's just simple as that. It's over 1 year now. Pass the bill. And now, you know, opinions from human rights group, CSOs, the bill is there. You all agreed on the bill. In fact, first one there, people raise issues with it. Some of our brothers raised issues with issues like blowjobs and all that came out with it. Said they've been away. They're going to be there. Someone have boys are and they went to do the amendment. And I'm on table here to the proper one. So what prevents you from taking that same document? Because you don't need to seek opinions again. No. But try that document. Nothing prevents you, and nothing prevents you from sponsoring the bill again. So you don't tell me, say, they are pressing issues pressing issues about fuel prices, pressing issues about maybe amount for here and at the hospital. So you think that those issues are more important than the LGBTQ issues? But in 2024, those issues always there. Issues of fuel, no honor. Wasn't fuel prices high as a result of Russia-Ukraine war then? Same 2024, no. Now amount for under form hospitals. But you saw that one as important to you to champion it the most. What prevented you then from also picking those issues out? Oh, there you your high fuel prices. Until let's tackle that one. Your high unemployment. Let's tackle that one. LGBTQI issues. What prevented you from also channel your effort into those issues? The issues are okay say of a priority to us. The issues are okay say of a priority to us. The LGBTQ, no, and then the immediate priority to us, no. Those issues still persist and they still exist. Unemployment is very high in this country. We moved from 5.2 to 5.5. It's still high. Unemployment issue as of now. So why don't you solve the unemployment issue? Why don't you advocate for the solving of the unemployment issue?
Why don't you solve the unemployment issue?
Why don't you? I think that you should make good use of your comprehensive class because once punctuation, it should be a punctuation. There's a comma. You cannot full stop, but full stop to Tobo. If you say there are pressing issues, let us pursue those pressing issues and pursue the LGBTQI issues too at the same time, because there were pressing issues in 2024 when you were following those issues and also pursuing LGBTQI issues.
All right.
If you add the two together, man can't tell us fuel prices are gone up. So you think that those issues are rather important.
Okay.
Now, 2024 no fuel price go up here.
But one for
LGBTQ out to up and so say all to anymore.
I no more now to here.
Why
you sit down? Sasemu me mo dear anyway. Me to me person me comment, but we are going to say na what you.
Agya me say the my question back on ha. Is there a strategic realignment of importance to please international audience? That's the question I'm asking. Union is made. I think that we're breaking something down. It is true. Alaji is correct. In say over sequence now. Pass a bill, president, for some reasons out of convenience, or be the court. He deferred to the court, but the court has even made a decision, right? But the bigger question, unlike the NBC narrative, which seems to suggest that it's not an important issue, I don't agree. I think it's actually a very important issue. I think it's a question of cultural values and philosophy of who people are versus a certain global, a certain idea of human rights. It's even a legal conversation about boundaries of human rights and liberalism, or as we said, and I said there are cultural values, which is what the bill sought to do. Say a proper human sexuality and family. That was how it was framed. Into me, even the framing of the conversation is, oh, even that narrative I don't agree, right? Because Mr. said a defining and say these are value system and a philosophy of what is human right and a philosophy of society, this is what is acceptable or what this is not what is acceptable. So I actually think it's an important conversation in nation building. But it's a question of, are you truly sovereign? What do you so mind? And I said the global north pressure, no, the economic consequences of we are saying and I won't say US, which led some of these things, or more president to say is against it. For me, which is even supposed to be a plus, because on my idea in campaigning some of these rights, they have their president and some of their states against this. So this is your best opportunity to entrench this philosophy for you as a people. But sabre we no ususu say ebia senya yete na no bi no ebia o pass ya car day and on my for some other European states would use that so and you may not get money and aid. I think there is really a question of sovereignty versus economic consequences. Yeah, ebia obetena by moi. No one will say, oh, say anopakasa anko na wiade anko. It's a question of moral consistency. Say NDC, do they still see the importance of this conversation? Say your muhun in Rano, is it still a conversation to be had? And if indeed it's still a question of moral consistency, then I was saying Kiapase Emrawe ene, right? And I say we should have done it now. And I say, are they waking up to the reality of government to know say ABI is say because ABI some European countries and EU is still very firm on some of these things. Human Rights Watch basically has some of the biggest critics against some of the laws. Are they waking up to the reality? Let's face the realities. ABI catcher say who say the consequences, the economic consequences will be this. Until Abia Ghana for Moma and America whilst we deal with the economic consequences before we pass. But to frame it say I personally disagree. I think say who here it frames a national ethos and a national cultural norm, a values, a conversation on values, and we cannot frame say values who here because say you haven't also your more modern until you can't determine values. In many parts, the values may even determine say the obey. So I think say is an important conversation. The real question is the level of the strategic importance. And I say mudrono assessor for the then opposition now. And you see, it's interesting. Say Omumi Nukasa assessor. Some few years ago, he would have been making the conversation, and they would have been pushing it for the agency and common assessor, which is the consistency of political agents. So Abaimwa, Nikasanko, or better opposition and Nikasanko. No, they switch. The same language switches depending on who is in power. So I think said there is national consensus. Say this is not a value sebi and so. And I think that the Ama Ghana for Asoriginano is the pushing of those norms, right? Sebi, we know that some people have been with us for years, but it's pushing it as a national value and forcing it down people's throats, which is what a value system. They also do their advocacy. They also push those rights. And if you feel as a national ruling governance, that is not a value system. Solve it now. Yes, we can blame MPP for all they want and all they did and all they didn't pass and all the gimmickry around it. But Oko, he's gone. That is why we didn't vote for him. So it's however legitimate the critic of what they did is, they are gone. But so the point is channel it into, if you truly believe say setting those moral conversations and national norms are important, do it now. And I think it's as simple as that. But if you feel say your cultural values against the economic consequences, no so catch it. Now you say, oh, Abia wants to sign your moral and value system, but who consequences no? And then they would probably gain political capital. Say, who a person of principle. But I think say politicians owe us the truth and some consistency. To me maintaining consistency na kanokrano say, oh, abusafo me sisa no say na meji di bad. Wa onim say na we are saying the ABA US president Nasisa and US Nasisa the about EU Sisa EU bet me I say on mine no because of this. minimum on the moral conversations and the protection of values, but every to me say because of this economy, and then we would have another conversation. But to reframe the conversation, say, oh, I completely disagree.
Ben, my journey be doing maintenance you. A dear pan, so won't I said you suicide, you know. One more a boss had that pabrano. Some musuno. I said, you saw
Omuska.
Onyawe. Well, maintenance here because a brand and people are bemuno. Na me first idea we kura nya me to me nya de bia ka ehun ase edi hun komokora ah ye se yempe etie asa kpakpakpa sun ye yempe o partner ga na o pa ko be bi o mo ye na kwatena o na ye bo bra fi no wo mo suro parties ni nyina suro anamboa
Agya Bete miracle
sir
ama NBC pass this particular act. It will take a miracle. I think the Ghanaian politician, let me cheer Minia Sompa, Anoka sovereignty, right? The Ghanaian politician is timid, has low self-esteem, and especially within geopolitical context. Unlike your colleagues in Nigeria, they are very assertive. Like Nigeria, more fashion.
Even Senegal has a similar
Senegal,
the Ghanaian politician, we are not dream no. Because most of them they steal from us and then save it in Europe or America, and you know, sometimes there's that kind of timidity and low self-esteem, and sometimes it's very difficult. It will only take a miracle for NDC to pass it. Let's hope say on bet me pass it. Now, me normally on this conversation, with respect to this conversation, me sure they say, yeah, and you be na yemra, mra me kase mra because. Sometimes all the mraba nipa na oko engage in crime no will do cost benefit analysis. Say bia me koya nso anso e beba ninti no menye. But beyond mra no media for mo dey hwamo.
Hey.
Oh yeah, mo dey hwamo. Especially the national, is it National Media Commission or something they call it something. These days National Communication Authority is where dey hwamo. Normally at free time, may call TikTok, right? And these days I see young guys promoting it on TikTok. Like they sit and do podcasts. I'm promoting on TikTok. They may not be law, right? But
Ghana.
Yeah, Ghana. They sit on TikTok and promote it. Omunya na yenye di epese ye. So I ask myself is that say Ghana is state and that bia me kama se mo ha bia wonyi Ghana is not a state like obi aye bibia keke. Sebia aban pemasema ena bi obey state wo so because be fa kwan bi so yiso mra no e de ache me beyond that obi ye bibia ye ni central command bia sebio odwema Ghana, right? In other jurisdictions like China, which has a central command, maybe Russia and others, their national security could tell you that in the next 4 or 5 years this is how Ghana Russia will be like or China will be like. Nekroma in the next 4 or 5 years, you can't tell us who we are or what we'll be like. Until any state, but nka your state nka yenu anamon cry or motie promoting nka state will deal with them even before law is passed. The National Media Commission said, "Adi oye aduma nka obestati official or some of these propagists or advocates of this practice. Now you are dealing with them because I believe that your neighboring countries, Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso, even Togo, I don't think that deficiency and I say abnormality right? Because these countries are very conservative in nature, right? They have their own cultural values. They have a value system. Ghana doesn't have a value system. I don't know, in philosophy that may even be a value system anyway, but Ghana doesn't have. What are we known for? What is our value? What is our position on some of these issues? You are liberalizing and NDC and NPP, they are even liberal. Sometimes I just watch them and then they are even more become more progressive than even a leftist ideology. NDC is a leftist ideology, but they are central left. And the central left, your perspective is that there's a bit of conservativeness in you, but most of what liberalism take over. NPP Krana also here conservative, because right, also liberal.
They are more
so liberal. The ideology, philosophy of political parties, they don't even know it. And ebe masa nneema we ne passing ebe yodin until the MPP antimi unsign and they'll give excuses. NDC, it will take a miracle for them to sign because also low self-esteem and also being say man sign American Mohammed ne American niska the man because they are almost so far. Europe and niska the man. We those in the CSO space we know these things because these are super funding great thing. They don't even bring money like because they are also suffering. And this all your mind say be all high self-esteem. All your confident eja obetima passing without obi anfa ne sebi ne nkwasi asemenko onsuru bia ba usuru now here no through eja another problem I think they are likely going to face is that passing some of these laws also come at a cost to the state.
How?
Yeah, it comes at a cost because I believe that beyond passing this law, because I was looking at the Russian law, so the Russians are not against LGBT but they are against promotion of it.
Okay.
Omum person be gina ba bi kura promote because e ye dem asem opa akoshe dem na ye obibi. And for that matter no omo pass omo laws in Russia and what they did was that they used their National Film Institute ne omo media no to socially re-engineer their people, right? In this anka ye state na bia make say even they are for national security no kada me say national security say was state even before passing this law the state will be funding the new resume office in Christ and Blaster line any
National Film Authority.
National Film Authority. The state will be funding this and even awarding script as a script you know yet the Bible show no UTV amagana for her like so even if this current generation are failure the subsequent generation watching these movies will be re-engineering themselves to fit into our value system. But we don't have a national security, you don't have a National Film Authority, you don't have anything, so obi a yedi open. Ne Turkey. Turkey regulates even YouTube. They regulate content what's up I can't remember I was speaking to a friend from Russia. Okay, I said ebra HBO release Game of Thrones. You know Game of Thrones has scenes it was the Russians banned the show in Russia. Chroma when they ban TV show be
to me.
Yet Chroma media houses more telenovela more show you. A lot of them have these scenes. The Filipinos and the Mexicans they have these scenes na nipa na ye ne ho style bi and no one talks about it because we don't have a state. Intermediate beyond law na ye pese pass whether MPP NDC beyond law no I think that the state should commit some resources to re-engineer us, whether through the classroom or whether through the media. It is a media no no be UTV is here. You even give media a principle. They can write scripts. You fund UTV to show programs are ebema unkofo no a behave send your person behave. Me omampanyinda da akofo, right? And necessary. Oni Alaja Aliu Mahama may so rest in peace. Me edi pa bia na first no me no munsu a saadi we see me totwini ba bia. But ebra omo ba I think around the second term or so they started this discipline program on TV. Na bodam fo bi dia ba ahwe.
I'm sure say wa bodam na.
Minia that re-engineered me. From that day me no munsu ento rubber ntwene da me nam kura me de shembutom. Say plastic me to nsuo na me nika mu na me na ehembotom me mo de shembutom me duru ba bia mato atwene. It has changed me. That is the power of media. And that is how come Nkrumah most of his things he was using the media to change the psyche of Ghanaians. But the Fourth Republic has had one of the weakest leadership. No care about who like Fourth Republican politicians ready. To frank with you, they are not nationalist in character. They are not intentional in character. They are not transformational in character. Because of say electorates no pay akwan into their focus is that yenya kwan more. But governance it goes beyond yenya kwan more. You want to set your people so setting towards a certain value system. So you create their mindset. Who shape you send your person and that is how other countries are doing it. But yet yes yenya kwan you're free. Minia Nasrika say Moody's am I a B+ or am I a positive? You're free. But governance goes beyond Moody's endorsement. It is about the philosophy of your people, how you carry your people, how you want your people to behave, right? So even if you have good governance system, Lee Kuan Yew encoded it. Nkaye ni anom da bia medru kole anase odo river we are. Me say Charlie, you can even use the media to change people's mindset, even urinating in the Odo River. You don't need a law. Law may come later, but Krumanaja, you need to be sanity. Beyond law, no, I think that a foot of politician, whether NDC and MPP, any of them that wins in future, right? Is that yes wrong? Say when I say now or more, yeah, because it's becoming a like young, especially university these days, who money be like for the normal practice because of the liberal progressive culture, even of our education system, right? University of Ghana, you see a jambo be addressing, but send you also addressing here because progressive UPS koya, you see UPS here SS. But you see, you want to model your people, you want them to think in a certain way. So that progressive lifestyle, you say jai, then it was a part of our education system from crèche to the university level. So that nipadi nyina or the nyini, but in the University of Ghana, I think these days they have normalized this LGBT thing. Most of the young ones now more normalized. People are normalizing it. I'm on social media platforms. Sometimes I watch those things and I say, and sometimes because of my philosophy background, I don't want to judge people. Like I just look at them and say and laugh. At the end of the day, but people are normalizing these things today, right? It's because our state has failed in shaping who we want to become. Into NDC and MPP, many are Nasru, many are Tik. Yes, that is say, the media and be juma. Let's use it because the media is very powerful. UTV, a bit mabwa. Say UTV, ekasa omwa, even the content of media. The content of media. Who even regulates the content? I see NMC. But do they even watch the media today? The content of media. How do you want to shape your people and allow telenovelas on TV stations? How? How do you want to shape your people and allow telenovelas on your TV stations? These days they even allow some to hold camera and microphone and also discuss issues. So President Mahama Yesreno sign in the better take a miracle, but you know at the end of the day, over try to sign. But let's reform us. Let the human institution be part of your research agenda. It's not the infrastructure, it's not the economic growth, it's the human institution. If you reset the human being well, I tell you, Minia, the next 10 years will be a golden age for Ghana. Oh, the all reset here, just reset us. Mayehu odaye sono, the person will achieve. Never resetting the party say when I'm person me achieve, you achieve it. But so say it will be difficult for you. Big push, you may not even achieve it by 2030 because our mindset,
anyway, yeah, be sure the basic. Someone I mean, say, sorry, class started kasa. Some sort of God for me who be social media side no krasa nya no krasa.
Yeah, so for no cry ebi. You are part of it.
Enti ye be hwe na ye nimu a ebi a hit na start be die.
Can I do a quick reaction?
Yeah.
A quick reaction.
I'll respond.
1 minute.
Okay, 1 minute.
1 minute. First of all, one meti yenua. I mean the point is very clear. About yenua also in the sense situation I are presented today, I still insist is not the same situation in 2024. Because as we speak today, Mijina Minanso catcher was said, Grata Bang. And I had the Akoma John Mahama and one in China.
You blame Parliament and I said,
and I make so if you have issues, because a processes where your governance system into Parliament in the Benkratano at the Abba. And it's a net. I'm ready by a Parliament here, say Jumano at the Koya, Mawai. So if you can tell Parliament who can tell you say I come a president and Yendi, then Babe will stay a time.
There been a session as president in the Sun president.
Correct. Say Sunudia. Then let us situate our issues on that same basis. For instance, Obi Ebejina Katrebe say if I say Adia yetu NDC yetu a clearing of Chief Justice. So we are making. Sani panwa okasa asem no eti ha Katre wo say obi ede asem no call court na president na be ka tire wi ate nyina sa asem wo court nti yentwen answer asem no obi animo
Agya Kwabena
let me finish talking
because you say be change your kind
man for one no ansi body what me abiti ye say wo ka tire yen say NDC for anamebwa
na dey about me the fast
no say yeah chief justice chief justice no individuals say you no one kasa tira aka say individuals na dey asem no court na yen nanado and I say MPP aban on the LGBTQ resistance and bra now mo ye law no what say individuals na dey call enti man fan ka say MPP I didn't see that no say ebi mo so atro petition for the removal of chief justice I know they aban
Agya Kwabena
I mean, what logic is that?
Mama, come over here.
So, I mean, it's so obvious. The issue of, say, president and also the leaders in Africa are timid to the extent, say, Bimukura mentions, say, Nigeria, for other countries, are stronger than the account. It is totally wrong and untrue. In the sense that as we speak today, I can cite to you several videos of Nigerians one more airport on the man Muhammad Basso on his bold position for on this Accra reset agenda, what they call UN. Echo Kasaye, bold criticism. I am team free African leader Bianche for so many years. That cannot be termed to be Obi Oyetime.
And not
that can never be termed
in terms of topic here discussing and they be all kind of because so share or maybe say Sierra Leone or Senegal na punishment wo but president they say punishment in the sha yes I be account
and omo ye law
and omo ye law no money account
and I say law ben and ya John Mahama
so that
is the question law ben na ya
and time MPs na ho no so no wo so mu say ade ahu hia because they tell me for kasa they say almost some penny
say MPs no hu say ade ehia ama omo aye say duma no mo di say duma no be ka kire o so MPP for na 4 MPs 4 and because that time na 137 wo be ka ye wo mo ni nya 4 every MPP side wo mo dey ban before you be possible na wie ade I say ye be be call president in China na 3 wo mo afrim na aka di pa ba ko na aka reverend Fojo
enye no kre
so ya be ka say until they so these are the facts
okay
enti obi antumi because me this issue discussing it am one can say because you share na situate issues in the right perspective and we will get results
like you should be prepared to do the strategic importance of the
and the people have even taken the lead who is the lead advocate for this bill in parliament. Same judge. Was it not the same person? And the process is ongoing.
The American say, the American one shouldn't see. The American say, me say, about we buy, Oma pass 33 certificates of agencies, 33 certificates of agency. And the LGBTQ issue no. Sanke, you want to say 33 way on come passing through that certificate of agency. So, and America say, so because say in 2024 no, say NDC bet me Chief Justice a piece of this and famous and can't mean Jindi. But almost me aye in some famous in LGBTQ bill. And idea yes say every 2 months. How the certificate of agency and the parliamentary majority that they have. But you see, I don't blame him. Who opposition now? Who opposition? Who things different? Who power? You two pounty. It's you one side. No, another point. Who I like that some kind of intro. Who power now? So who lose? So I never saw a go better not that form. If you are back, what's better for me? And I am very happy that taking this position because on your way to position. So keep it up.
Thank you.
So my main
but the point I want to I've taken your advice very well. But
I think it's really a question of sovereignty for me, right? And the government must make a choice. Say, if it considers the values important, it must assert its national sovereignty. And I think it's as simple as that. and come on here the value, because you see Ben Akasema, we're taking it for granted. Go to social media now. It is becoming normative, right? Eja ebi a ene nie ehunu in 10 years time. Obabeba be catch us say daddy me worry. Only one dey worry a. Obebo obi dia wan hwe a o heart attack a obenya. Enya de ketwa. Inti mimi susu say ehun here. If the government thinks say ehun here, Alhaji akan de obetimi akapia enye ne ya adwen the former government whatever. But Alhaji enunti na omo need to me musese no. They are gone. So it's a question of Alhaji ususu say who here ene. Say who here na then na wo ya fi because una okuta to me ene. As to whether or not they should come from Parliament or the AG, because that was a conversation that came up, whether it should be a private member's bill or it should be championed by the state itself.
Yeah.
It's really a question of, do we think that defining the values and the moral systems for a cultural norm and traditional beliefs, whatever it is, against modern ideas of human rights? That's the real debate. That's the real debate. Because liberalism again, many Ben Nkosiasi in some of the things he said. I mean, some of the states he champions. I of course, as a lawyer, some of the things I don't agree. I don't think that a state should be so encompassing in a way. Say it takes some individual rights away. But I also agree with him. A state must be powerful enough, and a state must exist enough. Say in giving people individual rights, it does not compromise state interest and objective. Into that I agree with him. Into they make a man question, they say, "Abaya what to me must say no." Oh, who say some common who here a boy or my church. Yes, boundaries as to your moral values. When you know a who here or my church. Maybe ane. Say on my no GB says defining of the moral values is important of a man teacher, irrespective of their Bible and Rano. We must solve it today. And what are they doing about it today?
Exactly
that is
what
the real question.
done is solving it. And you have to go through the process of creating the law. All those who took leadership position, what would they hear law?
Pursuing
the same agenda, and the bill has moved from one level to the other, and to the next, to the next. Alaji, waste our time talking about this.
It's not wasting time. More opposition, you did more than what we are doing here.
Correct. Opposition and Kasaka. Yet you are the one who for a crime. Because you can't say Parliament to say this is what you know. Parliament to say. And in Parliament, what is very interesting is that even the Speaker of Parliament, as another independent arm of the government, is very interested in pushing this agenda.
And today, Tina, so we have minority for us. Some can say, "What they assemble to other people no so no my so according to them, many hobby.
Now minority they assemble agenda papers for Parliament. Minority,
say what say assemble no other people so. Na if you say majority na de beto so.
Correct.
It is a majority leader. So majority leader no should say who here. I who here pa. And then I can government business no. On front to say I dey who here buy the pa. It be that to say hwe ni hu bibi.
No one here. Baby America say yen nyina so ya nya atomu no ne say. Today as we speak, we pa o catch us all the two so ayi no. Yeah, the man say one sign. Don't you have easy to talk about that? And is that person going to be chastised?
That is history.
It will be a history if the person is made to know that. By your actions, you have your right to even compare to the president. But we can't leave that person in that the problem we are in now.
Sompa is very analytical, but or answer my question no Emma me kakra na me pese me answer Alhaji. You see, in passing a bill into an act, those they used to take only the executive, but today a parliamentarian or private member's bill can do. And this is NDC, right? A person mo pass here, and your parliament also mo pass a bill. The executive can present that particular bill. So say ne Attorney General and Timing and draft bill beyond Fankoya. NDC is not ready to pass it. Simple. NDC is not ready to pass it. They are now waiting for the parliamentarians through a private members bill. Parliamentarians are through the private members bill. Sam George, it may be his priority, but he has other priorities. Because a minister of communication, otutu kwa onya mrena na nkawo opposition, onya adwuma bia no. Ndi say any interest it shouldn't go through private members bill. President Muhammad, and also a friend, Miami old boy, Ayene, right? Dr. Ayene, we a priority because he had a campaign into the amount 6 months. Fako Parliament. Oko Parliament are only majority leader. Mama Yargamongo Kasa. As one of the issues I was saying discussing table and temple. Because already your majority no. Your majority no now people or members in line. And oko 3 line shape krana obi abendo also. Omu nyina ba beto ama. Omotomawa mon family na mensan. It's simple. That is if you are interested in passing it. But over 1 year, I feel like you have been
very unfair to the NDC and the very unfair.
So the delay, I think that Maminya fair to you. The delay in passing it from the executive's angle and not the private members bill angle, no. And raise the perception say NDC doesn't want to pass it.
And America said, so what is the executive got to do in a matter that is in parliament and going through the process of parliament?
No,
what does the executive
the executive has a lot to do. The executive has a lot to do.
Alaji, what is that?
Executive no a lot to do because say executive no say private members bill no be delay because America catch say bill be out the corner, it has its own cost. Right? And the reason why Agya Kwabena unsigned bill no earlier no, he raised the issue of cost because implementation comes with money. But who executives no, who now in charge of the fiscal space? Into betima her bill na say okay, private for no delay, but at AG omu delay no yen for mo dey no nchen. Ye man in contempt because ye dey betima cost analysis no na ya pass it, but Attorney General is not even talking about it. The president himself has told us wakache ne say there are other issues and true he's occupied because and he's doing well because president way mimi hunu Ghana cry nduru 3 dem ya no namha so he's occupied occupied no
the same speed he wants if I'm
Alaji oh yes sir Alaji Pasha
Sister NDC to pass the bill this year. Not joining NDC.
Me da say.
Someone to pass the bill, I'm not joining NDC.
O say what say?
I want to pass the bill this year. I'm not joining NDC.
Who buy NDC? I just say what
Alaji who say then?
Me say NDC to pass the bill this year. I'm not joining NDC.
Who say want to be
NDC to pass the LGBTQI bill no this year. Me joining NDC.
Okay, thank you. Okay, but man now so you fool and some
yeah.
They say who did say to say auto say ye fusu ebeboa yen. Ezan say sa one once ya de ka ho.
Yeah.
Like ka bi o sisi ehwe ni etua. Enti sa one once di no I think finance minister be kan bibia be sin ko say etumi abo am ye nya some amount of money bi me etumi da ko clear e ka de edi ni bi. I think $1.5 billion also. Say be isa once in afri ho betu aka say temporal say fangu bono be kosoro na ye be san de aba the two ben e na wo say ana si de aban yi free ho na ye na nka san ko twen kakra ana say wa pre no hododo ana say eden ya ba me hwe ye wo 35 minutes.
Until Bekasa simple short one, many politicians like us. Sompa Agya a big man Okroma. Agya Kwabena a big man. You see, Métier Felix of Osukwachena. one shot about 1 Ghana cedi but just etimo hu say 1 Ghana cedi no be here free so cabinet we cabinet
Mrs. Koba say
okay because me tell say o say omu 1 Ghana cedi free so
sir we ko anu ne ayi issue amount for advocate see yin fa free ho
Kabeka say one ya for na le that is some nyina mu tie aja a big man because what man ya for na le say 1 cedi dia asempa okromo aja a big man but anyway I think that already the situation was not properly assessed, the future situation because ceasefire no ama price is not plunging. Until 16th of April, say diesel say a bit my holding every.
But it's gone back up.
But as I back down. The reason why I'm saying that I back down is say, okay, this window I issue $1,300 per metric, and a certain diesel price. The diesel on the international market is doing below 1,200, right? And I period I pay data to set the next Windows price. Diesel say I think that by 16th February without even tax cut, right? So and come here that analysis no every future near we share ntakrabu mu year be an command Russian because of the tax cut no come be trying am market now determine the price na obia ho aton but it's also symbolic because politically o tax o cut tax o be due di kakra because since 2015 I think the only time MPP tried was also short is around 2018 and almost I tried somewhere 2024 or more relax price stabilization recovery levy but no crana o man sent me I implement o more than the better so say NDC to me tax cut sector na symbolic or the beginning say oh we are people centered we care about you but I think that and come steady market in here even though some of us call for some of these tax cuts but come steady market here prices are dropping nti unhia say obey tax cut because price na no bafum dada the second part ni say bia sompanya akwanya he is the lawyer obey educate me kakra obabi you see these taxes or levies on the build up no fiscal policies they are on the build up by law right and sometimes if it's by law you can only repeal or amend it through law and another difficulty how the NDC matise binum say suspension does not mean scrapping or inti no dey betima suspend but within a fiscal space how dey or budget we dey be ya pass appropriation act no I'm seeing the difficulty in suspending any revenue without through the parliamentary process and the parliament is on recess. I see another difficulty there, but maybe the NDC may have superior argument. Now say yet me cross way nina superior argument. Na America ka say e boni e bafum. So I feel never say dey na yen free because now can usika sem. And the ebe year free so no, what say ya first no. Nanka yo 7 tax and levies and then 4 margins. But in no you 1 tax, 3 levies and then 4 margins. In 2025, NSSM ran kakra. So ESLA used to have about 6 levies. But in 2025, no, you consolidated some of the levies. Every year, what you call energy sector shortfall and debt repayment levy. They say, I have energy fund and a road fund under ESLA. Inti, the air kesipa umuno, energy sector shortfall and debt repayment levy, which is 1 Ghana cedi 95 pesos per liter on petrol, 1 Ghana cedi 93 pesos per liter on diesel, and 1 Ghana cedi 73 pesos per liter on LPG. Inti never has a yenyi a being free swana because that's the highest levy on the build-up. Inti say decided to say 1 Ghana cedi, then it means that our projected revenue from that particular levy is about 12 billion Ghana cedis for 2026. Inti we 1 Ghana cedi free swana we lose about 6 billion Ghana cedi. Inti we are buying was so say 6 billion me ko free and the abesho baby be free okwa free no I'll make sure honum sa ban bi tie nkwa dia sika bi abu e baby bitima akwa free oh so one thing is aside the downstream now abribia problem we also produce crude you produce fango ni bi ekoton o hwe 2026 budget you can say your crude na ekoton e beton no $76 per barrel and sika we say nya free ho no is a little to $1 billion but yes simulation by the Ministry of Finance and other sector stakeholders simulation will say a buono crude buono eco a drama so say eco $100 per barrel ye benya mfaso which is a windfall no ye benya 7.2 billion Ghana cedis right in this half energy sector shortfall and debt repayment levy na say nya windfall of 7.2 billion Ghana cedis because crude oil adu $100 per barrel ubetimi that 7.2 billion no abe kushin da ho na wa you 1 Ghana cedi afrim right nti eno no babi obenya sika ne e dia choko ho no no obi so be ka say no man yin free so yen koyi special petroleum tax 46 pesos yen koyi free so but I think that say buy no steady market ni ya man yin sika kase bi am free so bi onyi special petroleum tax no I 46 no eno so obeyi a ana obe suspend ya only 46 still na betima abo no aba around 15 Ghana cedis or 16 Ghana cedis per liter and equates to the 1 Ghana cedi anka opeso yi and also betima ko road fund 48 pesos per liter akoyi no but road fund no so yi a eno so tell say sika bi e be ya kwan e dey maintain your road infrastructure no about almost 3 billion Ghana cedis no anhwa na ya ama nti eno so another problem e ho nti ehwe no margins ne dey e be difficult
e be so munye boss margin in free
boss margin because in recent times I think that boss is wasting our resources to be frank not only on based on this government the whole of 1 year be Alhaji Nasiru Mudia or NIA because I don't follow them much but in the petroleum downstream Toy is doing tremendously well transformational very organized but boss for lack of a better word no I don't see what they are doing there's no creativity there the only thing on my year under this leadership is that almost is sending from boss to boss energies to be frank with you we don't see the energies abekon that's the only change our boss to assistant I don't see anything they do but almost trading they do trading because part of their business it's part of their terminal activities they also do gantry services omujiska they do interdepot transfers for zonalization omujiska basika edi more 12 pesos per liter which generates almost 600 million Ghana cedis annually no size can you need the because PDM no omuji huska gantry services omuji huska storage omuji free private BDC and as a BDCs no by sika no we give them 600 million Ghana cedis annually the omuti bi dey and say almost 600 from boss to boss energies
600 million
annually free money because as amene omukasa under provincial Bolga was working 1 year ni Bolga nyaduma Bolga has never hosted any product nti ye kwan na say Burkina for na say ye kwan no it's even part contributed by boss because sanka Bolga ye aduma Agya Kwabena Burkina ni no ana Mali ni no emba down APD ana omba to embe lodu product ye wo jet e wo bupe ji product na wo pushi e dey akọ Bolga through a booster in Savulugu nti ofri Burkina omba down obe lodu wo honom na wo dey akọ but for the whole 1 year products have never been to Bolga nti na make us minhu
ejuma papa bi
a boss to no ye nti so because ye nyi boss margin many no be many no mediatum but boss margin no so insignificant it's only 12 pesos per liter but 12 pesos per liter bit my year free because then make us say bo no e ba fom dada nti being symbolic say why bibi no obetima ka say ye nyi 12 pesos in free so na Ghana fon ka say na minia Alhaji Nasiru abetena ka say oh ya bibi and truly why because why year free so now the other margins, fuel market margin 9 pesos per liter, are buying to mean touch because a quality assurance margin. Yeah, the share product nonso. O touch here, it means that you to mean share product nonso. Problem beba krumba. UPPF is transportation. Yeah, the BRV owners and as a tanker owners ni omo drivers. Ne tanker owner omo drivers ni complaints o musika kra no yentu omo kai. Ndizo omo ntu omo kai no omo 90 pesos ni omo musika kakra omo gino. Oti ano so which means they will not be able to pay their drivers and also problem. Primary distribution margin size can the boss to boss na size can no and also cry the man no also interdepot transport and also transport and also no otis what transport is beba ho say one so I'm seeing a difficulty and in even the tax cut because me who ba ye be tax here free but born e ba from ti yetimi boss 12 no cry at least government make say why 12 for free so now lastly Agya
yes sir
another problem asemi buy normally in the downstream and I make say omo ko brief president no omo amwa president because in the downstream no say we implemented this policy here e was only OMCs no ni BDCs no enyan kitahudie because omo na the actual or direct implementers of this policy omo ni GRA say no the OMCs ni be can for example the likes of Akara Energy the likes of Star any others and say because of say market ni very volatile no ye tia taxes no upfront because product no ko lodu a say GRA no nka obi sana o ko lodu product na e cash and carry obi timi tia taxes no upfront ye tia tax no upfront for next window say also say my without telling us send you over refund your tax am. So I think that say ministry no be communicating next week how to implement it e wo so timi ka say omo what your tax na afront bia no ye betu your tax back to you ye be refund this tax no e dey amount because yes man because one yen is OMCs ni bi be giska no next window they will collect it because already we here on behalf of the consumer nti e no so no nti eja me hwe say NDC aban time an ke hia say omo be yi tax na free so atwam let me time na hia ne say anka the second window of March because that time na projection it say bonu be ko 17 and now we are buying on person bonu be ko 17 18 because the total on 18 so that time then we say for diesel 18 for the 1850 for diesel and now we petrol 15 something so that time na we sanka uyi be free so but no say be uyi free so symbolically why are there because the be politics or be campaign but bonus start before okay nti bonus start before no uyi free so why are there but ebema bono asan bafo mo okra ehunya okay and lastly eja me de mekasa isi no I think that Alhaji Nasiru he's a big man in NDC I think that we need a commercial transport regulator because your regulated transport sector ni here minuanum VIP for minuanum hwanom aban betimi ama yehu indicators ay dey share transport fares and obi take arbitrary position say me increase transport because fuel cost yes fuel cost but okay even inflation now more 3.2 no transport sector inflation declined by about 9%. A negative inflation. A negative, which is recession. I said, right? So if the transport sector is facing deflation, right? And I said deflation rather. So for a better word, deflation. Then waiting and sure any point so increase the transport fares. But ya jai ama obia ye dia or ye ntina make state power no. Me you ane me but because of years training as Soviets and Chinese, I think that anytime we must let the state lead. Okay. And if the state leads, we get value, we get good results. Okay. Not abuayen than this liberal position.
I like the state was leading in this country when everybody was making losses, including people even from the MP were making losses. It was a state that was leading in this country. We witnessed that. That is why we should be measured.
No, state. Which time are you talking about, Mamin?
Between 2017 to 2024 in this country.
No, that's not state leading. That's your usual politics. It's not state.
No. Why is it not state leading?
See, so state is its own ideology and philosophy of governance.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
It's talking about Russia and China.
No, I'm not talking about that. Even America has a state leading in certain parts, even though they do politics.
Yeah.
Without state in the leader, a critical institution that you bet me the National Security one and the National Development Planning Commission, right? Because any of the policies every free NDC ni MPP avano, omuna deba say ni epese yeko, ba monchire say ni edibeko. But because the state is not leading, it's like individuals are doing their own things. And another thing I'm observing, you are in government, so you may have better idea. The state institutions don't even communicate among themselves. There's no cross-sectorial policy making in Ghana. Ube say cross-sectorial and I don't know whether you signed the cast namodiaban coaches no.
For the
intercity or intracity coaches na Metro Mass amodiaban. Already the Ministry of Energy catch and say transport sector no or per se or e-mobility, e-mobile because of emission levels. And this Ministry of Energy conscious intention say or per se reduce ice and as internal combustion engines in our transport sector. Na so komudin kitahudia anka Minister of Transport enko high ice like enko importo internal combustion engines in ma and I say engines petrol engines in ma anko befa solar no not even solar befa electric vehicles about because that is the intention of government but because omundin kitahudie
okay Alhaji 5 minutes you see I can't vote there some so answer here sorry
okay nti you want na
make fuel
Fadio Samba
I mean I'm say
sana road na no achievement and now can want some
in this issue so obvious say as a buying say the jamawa na dia so
chai
nti wo no na wo say o pepine bi so a manfo anase timamfo no ho ebe hin han I'm saying it's in that direction. And I'm buying so at last saying who say yes. And indeed, my way say Ghana for representation, I work parliament in the minority side. I raise the issues up to a buy no they took the government on. Say the prices of fuel any senior no my cost when I was say we BB now try so with me I'm a Ghana for who I am high. I mean in the right direction. That is what they are supposed to do. Send a bear woman's war constituent. Enti say omo to an among we are. Ye nya ban a wakoye din a waka say media family. Because baby say issues about the say ye fa na yetena ho eye bibi fam. I'm saying you no actually you mu what about should go in it technically. But at the end of the day, aban na magana for ni na ate say mintimi enye hwe han entina sen ka say emfa me sa enhye me befrem me befrem na nyoma ekoso a enye enti mpanyimfo Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Finance won man hwe sene be ya ye nyina ye hunu say fango hu nsensem abeye ne ewo ho in the next 4 weeks. So before I call the next pricing window ni ne yekeka ho moment na se na ne ya betumi atwe afri ye taxes ne mu a ye je e ma fango bo no ekoso ye yi bi mfiri mu na Ghana for ho maybe meji di say saban etu sa mo we ya na onye ebone na otu sa na mo we na etre so say pepe or doing Ghana for who any Ghana for who send on very high. One thing ma the poor prices we the issue of transportation. To say one transportation system in this country is mostly private. Yeah. A buying side woman no air kakre without from the STC in metro mass no. Na nijinaro akwe so say private individuals and they control prices and also a be hard. And indeed, yehu ewo man mu ha emre ana aban we e born homebody. And indeed, mama ye we feel so say even at this stage I work any senior ye top poor in this country. Eye aban no nhihye bi a waya aboama yen cedi to the dollar the major currency yes transactions see the ninya ahonde mfa ho no enunti kra na even when the prices are going up no yetumi etua between 17 18 in the account to buy a liter of fuel. I mean yi eno free because the stability of your currency as against the dollar would largely affect senior obeto baby in the international market. Aban no mbodi mbo a ama dollar na ejina ne nan so bibi a say ebo na baso, and we didn't see that. I mean it didn't even deteriorate to this level. They talk for 20 something cities per liter so these are all facts. And also because I represent a buy no at so nintia yete ha no say we be magana for mu nsusure da wo any other political party and say other buy no na nsusure da yentemu no say yen yetumi aboye hombodin aye bibi sonko ama and they ye ko ye nimu no kra no ye say taxes aye be say na menu an kai we dey aye projections dada I be say be nya sika say e free ha e dey abe yen and this sika no yen to me nya but o ya ban so a you should prepare for shocks. Na shocks ne ba senior wo economy esiti no eno na be how resilient you can be against the shocks na be ba no eno na try how resilient you can be. And indeed the insecurity around the economy no etimi ama buy no kukuduro say betimi akwa withdraw taxes ni bi na aka na fo ho en han wo na ye hwe within 4 weeks na watwe 4 weeks how many na watwe say
watwe 9
na watwe 9 na yensan betena se ye betimi aye bibia anase o eno kire say after na watwe 9 no ye betimi atoa so se na ye ni ya na ya toa so ye ntimi ntoa so so a bibi biara ye adjustment no na ya ye enma Ghana fo nyina ye nyina ya dey ya toa so bi akọ. But the critical factor maybe America no say aban enamuntuo because who can for and someone mostly in the cities no apart from one year our car the fuel usage every year we catch us will be use gas wo fie and that is where the panel be feel directly affected but beyond that you know obi biara of a commercial vehicle ecoban highly affected by this fuel price instability because if you all ejuma or the 5 cedi and a ejuma over ejuma mobile back at us on 6 cedis and also on years our preparation and a nipa bi anso at say abuy ni yen take oh yeah it's say him say okay me give me salary 5,000 in chichemu say na be the cost of transportation inti bibi ko affect cost of transportation e pe affect other expenditures so oh yeah ML or no so encoded. It is about so in these whole processes, I can say, baby, me you know, like say, yet petrol, and as a petrol ne also. Now, yes, so they are buying vehicles, back to help in the transportation area. Now, are buying no, and to me, to me, prices of your transportation, no, and as a transportation first and one. Let me say bibi sonko an yen hu bi da e wo man mo ha for a very long time because this single initiative trepefe say me no wo kasa sisi yi say yen nyina yen hu time ayetete poor prices so wo krom na commercial drivers no wo mo private GPRTU for no wo ka chen so wo nte so na enye fuel nko anti na wo mo
spare parts in
the normal account eba ne say na nde poor so na omo so omo rebetum poor nkwanti na omo tum that is the question eba ne say na nde poor so na omo so ye ma omkwa na omo tum enso ambra na poor eba from no omo say ye poor ne nko so clearly you could see that you should change aban any timanofo in some sectors in the aban na muntu a wo tu for poor prices we near yesterday say ABI in that 4 weeks, you know, given the dynamics also internationally, there any war, no sense, you could tell, say, within the next 4 weeks, you know, you can see a clear direction as to the beer, the Tokano AC core.
Right.
Now, say, now say, we go back to former, say, position or war, any taxes in our wood, yeah, twice of me.
Yeah, say, a commercial beer, what's Uncle Baka, Ghana for no. Ya tia de so ayen kasa ya tum de na ya no dam ye nti en fa ne say wo se ya bete so e ko ba se bi a crude oil no e bo no e kosoro asam ka sense ya kasa yenim de besi ne se sa kosoro na so san de ba Ghana fon ko complaining nti na bi se de na we be ne kasa oni na fam no ba ne pre no do na ka so hwe system ne ka kan so bi to sa gina bi se gina wasi no what in the yard now? You're just 10 minutes.
I'm starting to the geopolitics of it. Sir, Iran, US, Israel war. Ben Susu said prices may back on because of the ceasefire. But if you're a keen political watcher, now hear the 10-point demand by Iran to stop the war. It's either US is doing a complete surrender and after the war would escalate even before the ceasefire. The American man say and Tokwano enye sa senye susu no no. Ebetimi aye ntokwatin pa in the way the consequence unlike Russia Ukraine the energy sources really the impact of that war was more on Europe, right? But we know, say, that enclave, 20% of global supply chain. Again, you say the dependence is largely for Asia on those value chain. So far, Ghana, we may not have availability problems. Say, Fang only the area come here say you benya bi Okroma because of the sources because I know even your Centro and your local refineries is producing about 30 to 40% of your local demand. Inti the kind make say Entokwano we shouldn't be quick to think say Entokwano e bury here because a bit to me in this nature of the ceasefire, no heard the Iran Ibusa before the war escalator. It's either US is prepared for a complete surrender, and now said the war. This is just halftime. Bikeke niabo. Yeah, estatia. Ebeko
soro. What did me try? Or say immediate ceasefire takes effect on all fronts. Just say ceasefire. One per se. Womu jen to kwano kra ceasefire no ekokra near 1 point. Another point is also a full commitment to lifting sanctions on Iran.
This is the 10-point Iran demand. Yes.
And third point number 3, so it's a release of Iranian funds and frozen assets held by United States. Fourth one here, Iran fully commits to not seeking possession of any nuclear weapon, and a reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. And establishing protocol and a condition to ensure freedom and security of navigating to Strait of Hormuz, and a full payment of compensation for reconstruction costs to Iran, and last, it's a complete cessation of the war on Iraq, Lebanon, and Yemen. Complete permanent cessation of the war on Iran with no time limit, ending all conflict in the region. In their entirety. Which is a year. So because a soon there to Iran so you in free okra. Nema ma saying na no mo aka na Iran fans and
that's why I missed that here on, because you see sometimes Sebi Eja Makawa happen. All my adult life what I've done is risk management before law, right? Into the scenario no ye na happen in time my war na end. But already the demands at that table can was
easy.
And yeah, they say this war will end and then you're
America for company.
Exactly. If the scenario said the war will end is not proximata, the more likely situation is this oil prices from when there. That's the point I'm making. The scenario of 20% supply chain cut. I saw in the news, South Africa, there are shortages. People are queuing. Prices has gone up almost everywhere in the world. Everybody knows that. Some nations are doing 4 instead of 5 working days. They are now doing 4 working days because this geopolitics will most likely change the order of the world. Most likely.
Maybe also can say your oil no free which is why
I said availability there. But the second point is the price. Because of international pricing, we are dependent. Crude na cotton near the dollar na good taba, right? So the first thing I'm saying that we will be price sensitive. Because we're dependent on international oil markets, the prices would always affect us. Miniano, I think mentioned it. We need to start thinking. This scenario of the war going on will stay for a long time. Prices from a Bekosroa. Then the question is, how do we integrate into our refinery in order to guarantee local supply chain? That is a conversation that we should be having in the medium term, right? Because ubetimi atete
onkanche alaji na so
ubetimi minumche alaji ubetimi atete prices so ne it leads to the second problem. Yes, it will help your inflation because you say oil prices will fuel through almost all the economy. You've brought inflation down to 3.2. You've cut policy down to 14%. All the macro gains, you don't want to lose it. Into Ubeka Kote price and so. It's a good thing in the short term, but in the long term, you compromise the physical energy sector because one city levy better so because energy sector has a problem, right? Energy sector debt and it can compromise your entire sustainability of the energy sector. In the short term, in the medium to long term, you're compromising the safety of the energy sector. So it's a in 1 month you can do that because but if the scenario that the war no end in 1 month, then the question is Utu oil or refinery. How do you reprise your, because it's an emergency situation, how do you reprise those contracts to make sure that you are becoming self-sustaining in a way that windfalls now ubenya from na 1,000 no, you can plow back some of those gains through your refineries in order to get the gains. That is for me the medium to long term solution, but that is not the easier route.
Okay.
The easier route is to say the easier route is to say oh yankote levies ne margin, but those levies and margins are doing something. Energy sector, IMF report still points us to the fact that energy sector is still a problem. In order not to compromise the fiscal sustainability of the nation, because COVID, a fiscal problem, no, is because of some of the reckless, is part of the problem, a compounding a national deficit. You don't want, IMF is living in August, right? Mm-hmm. I told organizations we work for, start doing a stress test. Say after August, say physical anchor na nyama ejina no, ebe reverse it in some sense. ABI could do 54 there, but you will begin to see some policy reversals because we will make some of these compromises in the short term. If you do that, in the end, over a large national deficit or a large deficit, gains now are making in no. So I think we should have a more strategic view to this geopolitics.
Okay.
Think about sufficiency, but also pricing by say your value chain. How can we end up the value chain? We'll own the value chain. We'll put it through our own refineries in a way. Say those productive capacity, is built by captain prices. But last
10 seconds,
last point. I think, we need to understand, the value chain of the oil, fertilizer is, for me, that's the last. Fertilizer prices is also likely to go up about 30 to 60%. Food security, again, what we need to think about is quite many solve the problem no more holistically. We just published a Ghana risk report. I think that we should understand the risks in the economy, and Mpanyinfoɔ should now think about quite many solving in our boom, and not some of the short-term gains may be important in the short term, but we should think more medium to long term.
I don't know. Say muna na mu party no and the position for the day ka say abanhwe no nte so na say aban aye some kuma to biem asa
eja papa aban so obeye onye ye but ye hwe nu say aban beye
okay
because ya ebipe and I think that somewhere 2018 yet so ye some of the ye Estland free so in 2018 I think 2021 and 2022 more data ni na ha say any news item. Yeah. I think we suspended it for about a month or two. I can read it for you. Open Turbo. Say open fact. Turbo make a man. Why large? Minister man can't show. Obe interject me. Say make a man. Enti uteki March 2024. Government suspend price. So price stabilization and recovery levy on fuel for 3 months. That is 2024, 30th March 2024. Osamba somewhere April 1st, 2024. The government of Ghana has directed the NPA to suspend the price stabilization and recovery levy, one of the levies of the petroleum product for 3 months, effective April 1st. Then Osamba to I think I got the name wrong.
It was pronounced. So price stabilization was pronounced but never implemented.
Okay.
Then Osamba October 2021. October 11, 2021. MPA approved 2-month removal of the price stabilization and recovery levy to reduce fuel prices. That's October.
Okay, but the question is the implementation of most of this.
Okay.
So there's been
Alaji
concerned. He said yes,
the price of life is under the ESLA.
Me that say
they increased it.
I made the correction when he raised it.
Yeah.
I made the correction.
Okay.
So what is the problem? But Eja,
yes,
all these things would have been a problem. When you said the day question, can you problem? Can you say because then people you who pay. A person at Russia Ukraine war no Asia here. And I hear time no crown with the sanction at US added to Russia so no. Who take Russia as a country? We're producing about 11% of the global consumption. 11%. And if it's Russia, if it's US, Israel, Iran war, where about 22% of the global consumption no if you number young people we should have been very understandable. Nka when Kenya asem nka yempo na nka say dey nim ka chaga na for so oh the AC dey you cry ya pencil eto you but problem they say Alaji the Momo party kind in the position that is the problem now. Momo no musem na say you dwan. And in fact near who say just about 4 months ago when prices dropped to somewhere about 9 cedis per liter on at the pump price because of OPEC ministerial meeting to announce that they were going to increase their capacity. When they did, and the amount of prices never down to somewhere I think 56 to 57 liters. 56 barrel, $56 per barrel. Then they started making noise.
The currency, you can't underestimate the currency.
I'll come there. They started making noise. Hey, Papa Bao, Mahama Tifu also. Should we also ignorantly, me say ignorantly, and I say yeah, shut that. And I say fuel prices are costing so well so Mahama na increase now. Me see the word ignorantly, but for word ignorantly. And I treat me say you should yeah shut that. And I say mona increase fuel prices now because 4 months ago mona say mona fuel prices so. So on what basis?
By your action of telling the government your minority
Alaji Nasiru me say Alaji make us home take time to pass name me comprehend take comprehend Alaji Nasiru I'm not a sir. Me say 4 months ago, most of them are too poor prices. So 4 months ago, now crude prices $56, around $56 and do $60. 4 months ago, most of them are too poor prices. So, and I catch them say, "Debut, and I'm not motor so international world market prices no, I can hold above on that the biggest indicator the crude prices and not even your currency because the crude prices can mess up your currency and it happened to us between 2022 to 2024. The crude prices. No, I also understand what I'm talking about. I'm also an industry person. I know what I'm talking about. So, my catcher said the crude prices is the biggest. If say a ton of $56, now all of a sudden it moves to somewhere around 125 pounds. The price is going to near double, like it has happened now with the diesel. We are now in 18. What man say? It may say some more when it was $56 per barrel. Say one amount to poor price and I make a tree because I may say yen said that. Me say yen said that say. We say poor price now because one amount increase poor price now.
Even at it.
Me say yen said that. Alaji.
Even today when it's 18.
Alaji. Me tell dictionary. Me tell him because I want to keep. Me tell him because I want to keep. I want to keep. Me say yen said that. Me say yen said that. Should we pretend
to patch say omo sheda na no mo kasa na
me say yen sheda me say yen sheda
omo bre so omo kan omo sheda na
o say omo sheda
okay
omo sheda me say yen sheda en kasa na mo increase poor price na but you see Agya Kwabena oko Ghana web ekwo check issue before 1 cedi levy be ba so na energy minister parliament yen ye hwe video ni bi etrendi ye pa ye bi sa no 1 cedi fuel levy am do be so yi ebe increase pump price now the minister of energy John Jinapo eka name and away I think 4 June 2025 or say okay speaking on the floor of parliament on June 3rd 2025 John Jinapor assured that the levy will no way increase the price of fuel product. He said that the introduction of the levy is a smart move by government to raise revenue through revenue without burdening Ghanaian unduly. Then, in quote, say now, energy minister can or say, members of the John Mahama administration, when we are taking pragmatic steps, smart moves, intellectual moves to address the situation, you want to antagonize us. Please retreat, because this will not help you. Or not to ask, say, Mr. Speaker, let me assure you that unlike the previous administration, we decided to use the fuel levy to pay pension. We are not going to do that. No, sir, bad. No, can say, Mr. Speaker. No, sir, bad. No, say, Mr. Speaker. On this auspicious note, let me make it clear that irrespective of the 1 cedi, we are not going to see any increase in the pump price in the petroleum sector. It is only an intelligent government that can do this. It's only a smart government. It's only a government with acumen that can do this.
Okay.
The energy minister no person can say or say 1 cedi no fuel levy no and increase pump prices. Now it take government abaya owa adwen bolobo abaya nyansa boapa nyansa nyina wo mutim it take omo ansa na mo timi ehu sa etimi de sa policy yaba sisi ano sa 1 cedi levy no any pump prices so so will you please sisi say be down to 70 this be down to 17 and that's so hasn't the price at the pump increased?
Your question is say no actually.
The price has increased. The price has increased. And I make us say yeah chada aka say said the money yeah no the same thing
okay
munya bi nka because one got some your recent utterances when the prices came down it's the cause of a problem today.
30 seconds.
My colleague industry person you use crude and set a price okuma. So crude price a bit to me as what but not finished price no was so even though there's sometimes direct relationship. Intina person can say you come hand sometimes say argue on prices of fuel you use price of the finished products in their metric tons or in their gallons on the international market and not crude. Normally with the crude kasa and here obeti because crude no there could be direct relationship but enya bribiana it is sometimes a bit to me at it but not finished product no it was true because of refinery process and other refinery inefficiencies. Inti na mpesa me correct.
That's it. We say na ke ye ka vox ya samu no ka vox ya samu no. Na so ye bre no aso. Ye so poso oko
national youth organizer.
National youth organizer. Oh okay. Na mo ho no criteria ben ene ye de hwe ye hwe age ne ye de ya na asa obi a betumi aka say
your honom de hwe age.
Mo hwe age.
Say Sankendi Sankalad na do contest national youth organizer.
Eti no eti say obi ope contest for youth organizer no ni age ni gap ni say range no below 40 enti we below 40
me below 40
prince what
also 40 no you on say MPP no 40 no you were below 40 actual below 40 say no and there were pretentious below 40
into a pretentious and I say actual
me actual
okay you that's it
na wouldn't there one me ka say o age na o ka say below 40 wo be certificate
oh money na wa say
wo e wa ha o sa so gara ka
oh money na
na no de na ye ne de na ye ba ko o de na ye
alaji obviously ko NI database ko say no kra
ba wo pa se be yasa ni wo pa se be yasa ba me di gara ka de na se be timi
mo fama article na o mo amane ko ye am say vox in sam no afi na aba say o mo long distance na asefo no o mo ye adwuma de na me ka say be enya ka ni de twi nipa de twi ka no nipa na dwunu mu da ho a onko kwese speed na dwunu mu na do be kwese speed enti no issue e be hwe ne discuss na me dire say we asese ni ho say dia astart e bia ye ma ye mpene ye be ye ni mpene dabi ni kwa nipa nkwa ho hia na abrati bi frame o ye driver ni o say ja na mo wira fi bi na me say adan o say enya driver say nya o ka o na betumi atwa say samawa this one nya when meet says na who dey but speed na so
ko car ni man e wonu kwa na work
speed na so adwuma so ni ho enti ade no aye bibi pa esi ehwe na ka wasempa enye onu nko ahwe wo mo ye work campaign o be ye adwuma na ka be ye bosumi miensa bosumi nan na wo ye yi na wi na o be hu ana grrr na ka wo mo so abagis aka no na se bro bre nyina no ahye guti transport sector on nsem wo ho pa nti ye be hwe na eno so actually
I agree with the person who raised the transport regulator issue. I agree with it. I agree with the regulator.
Yeah, but na zero na go rikadi.
But what say asem worker media idea mate me hu ni say nkofo ni biye kasa ebi mu kasa no
ano she enye
we don't solve problems with such kasa
me vox in kasa more problems with because one you to see anafia e dey baby see ya anu number 1 number 2 you raise your kosoro enti from France yes satan no and number 3 enye car what that ahoden na
but DVLA license so the question then becomes technically it's a DVLA man license so
the commercial
na DVLA
so the license because the man say
road safety
if you understand the DVLA point the DVLA point yes commercial but the distance you know say nka commercial
yes but then if you license me to say the car is good for commercial then you probably want to solve it from a DVLA where you say based on the weight and
but commercial operating under the law they cannot go beyond
so
their mandate.
That means
how then you come back and say
collaboration na can was
even the motorbikes we have some big licenses but in this country we don't have laws commercializing motorbikes the commercial ones you know are used by companies courier service this parts in the account but they do register DVLA for register but that doesn't tell you say because you are commercial you can do what the state also is against
and you share the besie and am kind of sanka the collaboration between road safety DVLA transport ministry anka we no na kaba question but you commercial but ebe intra city e be akransa o akra kaso akra e be akumase ne buakwa no ne nasefo na afa ye adwuma na obutu road from Kumasi to Tamale
from and trying to
Kumasi
I just want him say me na
pass America bia wo
it's horrible it's really horrible
ya be hwe ne no ko alaje me da se ben nsia me da se na ya onso me da se na fe atike onso me da se papa ya sori so na yakọ na sade me di kan ye no na ye Germany atike kwan ewo Kumasi nti minu se ye nyina obia Kumasi sabre ya ye kasa ye nti be man shedin ene na wotwe sabre so na me oche bi dumase na me jami sister kwan nti eno so ye de ewo ho ye so say makopa na meka medical ka bi say let's build ourselves ye peja ye ho mami ya okọ space yi okọ wiemu yi ye friend say Catherine Cole no se ye nyina o de Ghana flag ko obusua de o Legon kakra ne modern boy ye na aduna kodu na Ghana flag ene di ahim e wo space wiase babia ma obia ehwe enti so obi ye bibi na side be bo man na moma ye pagya no let's build our own ye nyai say bia bebe bia papa bia fa Ghana hu bia no se Ghana ni na ya ye se ye mpe ne agene de ma kwasi broni so ya no de ko doesn't make sense to you never doesn't make sense to me did Agya Kwabena production team da o mase wa hwe so beda ase ye ho nyakopon adoma ye be se hia kra mu nyina ma mu nyina mbo ene hwe